China? China. I have to have my China.
Jesus, I say that.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Full of Pepe.
hot right now. So hot right now. So hot right now. So hot right now.
That's
So
hot.
hot right now.
Good guy.
Well, it's good to see all you folks once again. I hope your day and or night has been going well. Looks like you got a full list here today, so you better get right to it. Buckle up those seatbelts, folks. It's time for a journey into the abyss. Well, what are we gonna get started with, huh? What are we doing here in this world that we living in? Well, I'm gonna start here in Seattle, where customers stop suspect from fleeing after fatal shooting at Thurston County Bar. This is from 9 hours ago at King 5 Seattle.
Chaos at the neighborhood bar just off Old Highway 99. An outpouring of emotions, surrounded by the flashing lights of investigators.
Just horrified to see something like this happen at this wonderful little establishment. It's a very close-knit community where people really care for each other, and for something like this to happen is just traumatic for the whole area.
Maureen Brown has worked at the Old Highway 99 Company Bar and Grill in Tenino a little more than 6 years. She could hardly believe it when she heard a customer had been shot to death outside. So far, the Thurston County Sheriff's Office hasn't said a whole lot, just confirming one man is dead, and the accused shooter was beaten by other customers and restrained until police arrived around 6 o'clock. The suspect
So good guys without guns stopped him. Weird.
be taken to the hospital before deputies could take him into custody. Customers say this type of thing is unheard of at their favorite spot for food and drinks.
It's a good place. We come out here all the time. Tuesday, Taco Tuesday.
Yep, Taco Tuesday, interrupted by, murder.
Rid of the Second Amendment?
Okay. But yeah, if you weren't listening while that was going on, people without guns stopped someone with a gun. Granted, they still killed somebody, so that's not good. But once again, kind of proving that the necessity of guns is questionable at best. Alright, what's next? Oh, this is rhetoric about guns. Who doesn't love Taco Tuesday? No, totally. I hear what you're saying, chat. It's a great time. Everybody should love Taco Tuesday. All Tuesdays should be national holidays for this purpose. Just tacos. Okay. What was I talking about? Ah, yes. Speaking about rhetoric involving guns, let's watch this one from Carrie Lake, who urges supporters to be ready for 2024 with the phrase, strap on a Glock. This is from 16 hours ago. Okay, Carrie Lake's going to say some real smart stuff, so get ready for that.
Arizona Senate candidate Carrie Lake suggested to reporters they might want to arm themselves in the run-up to the fall election. To supporters, I should say. She made the comments at a campaign rally on Sunday.
The next 6 months is going to be intense, and we need to strap on our, let's see, what do we want to strap on? We're going to strap on our seatbelt. We're going to put on our helmet, or your Carrie Lake ball cap. We are going to put on the armor of God. And maybe strap on a Glock on the side of us just in case.
Yeah.
You can put one here and one in the back, or one
Oh,
in
you
the
need
front,
two.
whatever
You
you guys decide.
need like 2 or 3. Yeah, just in case. You got to be safe. You have to make sure that your front and your back and your sides are all covered by Glocks. It's the only way to protect yourself. For fuck's sake. These people are insane. You love Lamp? Yeah, I too love Lamp. But yeah.
Because we're not going to be the
Good old Carrie Lake here saying some very smart things, of course.
victims of crime. We're not going to have our Second Amendment taken away. We're certainly not going to have our First Amendment taken away by these tyrants.
Not great audio there. If you couldn't hear it, she said...
I'll be honest, I'm not shocked to hear that Carrie Lake likes a good strap on. There's nothing wrong with that either, you know?
Wanted to put on a seatbelt, put on the armor of God, and yes, a Glock on her hip, and then got into some comments about the Second Amendment. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas is doubling down on his comments. We told you about these yesterday, where he urged citizens to, quote, forcibly remove pro-Palestinian protesters blocking traffic on major bridges and roads across the country this week. Cotton told people to, quote, take matters into their own hands against demonstrators and to confront them with the use of physical force. Here is Senator Cotton doubling down on that stance to NBC News.
Vigilantes are blocking traffic in the streets when moms are trying to get kids to school,
Vigilantes?
or people trying to go to the hospital.
He's referring to protesters, people using their free speech to protest. Or he's calling them vigilantes. It's ridiculous. I thought these people liked free speech.
Or just trying to get to work should be removed from the streets. Yes, I said that. I posted it. I would say it again today, and I would do it myself if I found myself in that situation.
But you said people should take matters into their own hands. Can you just clarify what that means? Because some people think it could call for violence.
It calls for getting out of your car and forcibly removing pro-Hamas vigilantes who are blocking the streets on major highways so traffic can continue.
These people are fucking insane, okay? Like, listening to that rhetoric, just from Tom Cotton here and from Carrie Lake, if you were to just take that slice of rhetoric, right, and sort of extrapolate it over an entire base of people, right? Like, we got serious fucking problems here. Like, and maybe you're not quite hearing it, but they are genuinely calling for violence, right? They're saying, "Oh, you gotta get locked and loaded for 2024." You know, you need to attack protesters physically. Am I lagging? I'm lagging. Why am I lagging? Son of a. Hold on. Am I lagging? Why does this happen at the beginning of every stream? It doesn't make any sense to me. Am I lagging? Hold on. Are we lagging? Is it buffering? Everybody is saying it's buffering and you can't hear audio? Okay. Okay. That's not good. Okay, we're gonna fix this, chat. We're gonna fix it. Don't worry. Going to solve it. For whatever reason, this happens at the very beginning of seemingly every stream, no matter what I do, almost every time. I don't know what it is. It looks like it's doing slightly better now. I can't tell. It is hard to tell. Especially because I'm just looking at some screen and I'm not actually listening to what's happening. Earth's rotation was choppy. Yeah, no, it happens. You can hear me, but the screen was freezing. Everything was fine for Stefan. Okay. Well, let's see if this is better. What do you say, chat? Let's try again. But you can hear me now. Is that generally where we're at? Honestly, this is a good time for this to happen since everybody else is still streaming. Matt Bender going and what not the left of the box, left past 10, whatever it's called. Everybody's going. All right. Well, we're gonna hope that it's now working. Let's go back and try this again because if it wasn't working for people, I just wanted to make sure it's all working properly. Let's just try this one again.
Arizona Senate candidate Kari Lake suggested to reporters they might want to arm themselves in the run-up to the fall election, to supporters, I should say. She made the comments at a campaign rally on Sunday.
The next 6 months is going to be intense, and we need to strap on our, let's see, what do we want to strap on? We're going to strap on our seatbelt. We're going to put on our helmet, or your Kari Lake ball cap. We are going to put on the armor of God.
Wow.
And maybe strap on a Glock on the side of us just in case. You can put one here and one in the back or one in the front, whatever you guys decide. Because we're not...
Here's the question for you all. Why? Ask yourself that question. Just try and put yourself in that frame of mind, right? Where you're cheering for that. Why is it needed, right? What's the implication, right? We're under attack, or we need to take the government by force. It's one of the two things, right? What are the other reasons for needing a gun in this context, right?
To be the victims of crime. We're not going to have our Second Amendment taken away. We're certainly not going to have our First Amendment taken away by these tyrants.
Not great audio there. If you couldn't hear it, she said she wanted to put on a seatbelt, put on the armor of God, and yes, a Glock on her hip, and then got into some comments about the Second Amendment. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas is doubling down on his comments. We told you about these yesterday, where he urged citizens to, quote, forcibly remove pro-Palestinian protesters blocking traffic on major bridges and roads across the country this week. Cotton told people to, quote, take matters into their own hands against demonstrators and to confront them with the use of physical force. Here is Senator Cotton doubling down on that stance to NBC News.
Vigilantes are blocking traffic in the streets when moms are trying to get kids to school, or people trying to go to the hospital, or just trying to get to work, should be removed from the streets. Yes, I said that. I posted it. I would say it.
The fact is, he has zero empathy for Palestinians, right? Like, any inconvenience is somehow worse than giving money to Israel, to allowing a genocide. That somehow comes second. Making sure that moms are getting kids to school, that's number one, because that's a big inconvenience. Jesus Christ.
Today, and I would do it myself if I found myself in that situation.
But you said people should take matters into their own hands. Can you just clarify what that means? Because some people think it could call for violence.
It calls for getting out of your car and forcibly removing pro-Hamas vigilantes.
He is that sentence right there. I think he could be. I think that he could be held accountable for that sentence if somebody does something to a Palestinian protester. I genuinely think he can, just based upon that one sentence. He is telling people. He called Palestinian protesters that vigilantes, and now he's completely switched sides and told people, "You be a vigilante. You go out there and you physically remove people from the fucking streets." But that you have these, just to anybody listening who's thinking that that's a good idea, I'm going to point out he does not have the ability to give you the right to do that, okay? That's a crime. That's a fucking crime. That would be assault.
Who are blocking the streets on major highways so traffic can continue.
Senator Cotton maintains he's not calling for violence against the protesters, but did share a video on Twitter showing a
he
group
can't
of
do
men
that after
dragging
that sentence.
protesters off the road, with the senator captioning, quote, how it should be done. So Joe and Mika, we talked about this yesterday. Senator Cotton.
Okay, we're going to stop it here, because the second that Joe Scarborough comes up, I think you all know that I'm basically done. I'm basically done. The second I see Joe Scarborough's dumb fucking face on MSNBC with their stupid right of center leaning garbage these days, oh, it just makes me mad. And he was like almost, I feel like he was more of like the early version of what they've become. You know, it's like, oh, let's grab like an old, you know, Republican congressman and throw him in the mix. See how that works. No, fuck you. Fuck you. Okay, what's next? Oh, this one. Thankfully, whatever. You know, maybe we'll skip it, because no, either way, I feel like needs to at least be looked at real quick, and this video is not long. This is from 9 hours ago from Cron 4. Multiple East Bay schools respond to bomb threats on Wednesday morning.
Thank you, Raina. It is 10:37 and just into the Cron 4 newsroom. Multiple Contra Costa County schools apparently were on high alert this morning in response to bomb threats that called for the release of Russian prisoners. So these threats were made to the Liberty Union High School District and the Brentwood, Antioch, Pittsburgh, and Mount Diablo school districts as well. The letter claimed a bomb would detonate at 1 p.m. on school campuses unless, quote, all Russian prisoners and captives and persons were released. The districts notified local police and verified that these threats were not credible, but here is a statement that was put out from the city of Oakley. Here it is on your screen. It reads in part, quote, the Oakley Police Department was made aware of the threat of a device being detonated this afternoon, made to the 3 school districts operating within Oakley, and then it lists those districts.
Okay, well, thankfully, the threat was not credible, but it's problematic, right? I think we can all accept that one. Now, the reasoning for it completely confuses me. And that one, I don't know if I'll forever be mystified by why you would choose to make a bomb threat over Russian hostages in California. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but shit happened. It's fucking really weird, honestly. I'm pretty thrown by it. But thankfully nobody hurt.
And we will begin in the East.
Wasn't a credible threat, apparently. Okay. Now, just to help us, what's the word? Kind of get into things with a little bit of comedy and a lot of bit of serious in this one video. We're not going to watch the whole thing because it's like 40 minutes long. But this came out, Walter Masterson posted this a day ago, entitled, Trolling the NYPD at City Hall.
I'll now open up for
Why is it so
public
fucking
testimony. I
quiet?
want to remind the members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times.
I'll call a Walter Masterson.
We need more cops. Everyone says that more police officers equals lower crime rates. The only people who disagree are people that actually research crime, and all they want to talk about is, access to mental health care, access to
I don't want
housing,
reality.
food. Forget those people. The only way to reduce crime in this city is to put a police officer on every corner, every subway car, inside every classroom. Right now, we only have, 30,000 police officers patrolling the streets? We need to get those numbers up. It's simple math, right? There are currently 6,400 subway cars in our transit system, as 1,800 schools in NYC. That's 20,000 classrooms, 120,000 city blocks. We need almost about 150,000 officers on patrol at all times. Otherwise, who will be there to play Candy Crush on their phones as civilians disarm violent offenders? Last week, we had a horrible shooting on the A train at the Hoyt-Schermerhorn stop. Now think about this. The Hoyt-Schermerhorn stop already has a police station, but that didn't stop the shooting. But what if the subway car had a police officer in it? What if everyone on that subway car was a police officer? What if the shooter on the subway was also a cop? That would have been amazing. There would have been no crime report or anything. We could have just handled it internally. We could end crime today. All we need to do is make everyone in New York City join the NYPD. Then assaults, murders, sexual assaults would just be handled internally. Someone steals a car, give them paid leave. Problem solved. You might be thinking, how are we going to pay for this? Right now, the NYPD budget's $11 billion. That's only 5% of the city budget. It should be 100% of the city budget. It'd be the only way to curb a crime rate that's already almost historically low. No parks, libraries, schools, homeless services, mental health officers, transit, arts, or happiness. Why would we need those things when we have the NYPD?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Isabel Leyva. For the past 4
Okay,
years,
so now there's a bunch of
NYPD
testimony from
protest
New
monitoring
Yorkers.
program, through which we've documented police.
There's a bunch of it. I'm trying to think of. Hold on, let me figure out which of it. I can't remember which ones. I need to scroll through this real quick. Honestly, I think we might just start here. Yeah, right about there seems good.
Will bring to them, continuing these tactics from 2015 and before, and why I agree that disbanding the SRG budget and the group as a whole is important. I must also stress the importance of holding the NYPD.
Actually, hold on. No, this is the wrong spot. Okay, right here seems pretty good.
Maybe a decade ago, this would have been done via a press.
On the stream, they don't care about America. That's the last thing they care about. They want to destabilize America. They want to end American greatness. So it's pathetic. So don't let this happen. Don't let this happen. Use your brain. Use your brain, not like these sickos.
You know, maybe a decade ago, this would have been done via a press conference or via an interview. But in 2024, one very important way to communicate with the public is via social media. And that's something that we've done and will continue to do.
If you are going to use social media platforms to get your message across, it is absolutely essential and imperative that it be correct. It is essential and imperative that there is no harm done to innocent folks out there who are just doing their jobs, like I said, appropriately and accurately. It is imperative that if nobody gets this right, that the police department gets this right. Thank you for your testimony. Commissioner.
And Madam Speaker, I'll double down on that and let you know that as an agency, we will be more careful and responsible about what we post.
Thank you. That's good.
Back to the facts. So, in FY21, when the mayor came into office, response times, average response times to critical crimes in progress, dispatch and travel time, was 5.6 minutes, 5 minutes and 30-something seconds. FY24, first 4 months of this year, average response times, critical times in progress, 7 minutes and 20 seconds. That is a major, almost 2-minute increase since the mayor came into office responding to serious crimes in progress. Police officers haven't changed in a substantial way year over year. We have about the same number of cops.
It did sound like Ben
Why
Shapiro, didn't it?
are response times to serious crimes in progress up by almost 2 minutes since the mayor mayor came into office.
We've had some attrition in the department, which accounts for increased response.
It was a less than 1% change in the police department headcount, officer headcount year over year. We're seeing a nearly 2-minute increase since the mayor came into office in response times to crimes in progress.
Which is, in the context of this, quite a lot, because it's 2 out of, I believe, the original, before some of this started happening, it was like 5 minutes. Now it's like 7.5 minutes or something. So it's like a 50% increase, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but you know, in case of emergency, it is quite a lot.
Why is this not a serious issue that the police commissioner himself is focused on? This is a major problem across the 5 boroughs. I think it should be addressed.
First of all, I'm still going to disagree with that piece of paper until I match my numbers.
You're disagreeing with the PMMR that was reported, NYPD's data
I don't
in
want
your
reality.
own city's report.
So I said in the beginning, let's agree to disagree for the moment. Is that fair enough?
Chief,
no.
Come on. This is the city's report. This is NYPD's data.
Disagree for the moment. This seems like an important moment right now.
All right, go ahead, Chief.
Respectfully.
Please.
I thank you for coming to the scene the other day, by the way. You were a big help. Now,
I'm always here to help.
It's a nice conversation. And
I
the
love this
seriousness
guy.
of the report in terms of, I'm going to say it again, critical response to critical jobs. Do you see our enforcement numbers in terms of what we're doing at critical jobs, the lives we are saving? So
I'm focused on the data, and I want to make sure that when a critical crime happens, that we're getting there as quickly as possible. Historically, Chief Madry, how long have you been in the department? 33 years. Historically, that number was always 5 minutes. Chief Madry knows that. 5 minutes to get to a serious crime in progress. We're now at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. That's a big difference.
I just realized, chat, well done. You have unlocked Benjamin Sisko. Let me get him in the mix for you here. There we go. Old Benny Sisko.
You're being pulled in many different directions. We just went over all the protests we have to do.
So what I want to hear from the department is what you're going to do about it. I get that there's protests happening in New York City. There are always protests happening in New York City. What I want to know is what you're doing to speed up response times to serious crimes in progress.
Since October 7th, NYPD has responded to over 1,800 protests a day in our city. Now take the totality.
Oh,
of
they're
what you're
blaming the
talking about.
protesters.
Those numbers
The
could be skewed.
protesters' fault.
Because if you're responding in Manhattan South, it could take you hours to respond based on 10,000 protesters since October 7th.
There are always protests in New York City. There are always
Not
a lot
to
of
this
calls.
magnitude.
There are always a lot of 311 calls. There are always a lot of 911 calls. What, frankly, I find most disappointing about this exchange is not that you're denying the report that came out from the mayor's office with NYPD's data about the response times to serious crimes in progress, is that you all seem surprised by it, that you're not aware of it. This is a major indicator moving in a very wrong direction.
You'd think that the police would be the most aware of the statistics, but you know, I don't think they're screening for people who are focused on statistics for whatever reason.
And what I'm hearing from the senior leadership of the NYPD is they're not even aware of it. You're not attuned to it. You're not responding to it. And I want to hear what the solutions are for how we're actually addressing it.
So you can have 60 precincts that are doing well, 65 precincts, 75 precincts, 2 precincts. It's a response time.
Once again, just going to point out that they're clearly not screening for mathematicians at the police department. I think we all know that. But his suggestion that somehow 1 or 2 departments out of 65 could cause a 50% increase in response time would effectively, I'm trying to think of what the math is right now, but it's huge, right? It's fucking huge for 2 departments to increase it by, and this is probably going to be under, but my guess, they'd have to be, instead of responding 5 minutes, they'd be responding, I don't know, 5 hours, right? To skew the data that much, because that's kind of the point of statistics. You're supposed to be able to, you know, by adding everything together and come to something more sensible, right? But in this case, like, this guy's trying to what's it called? He's trying to p-hack the data here, right? And it's not an effective strategy. And unfortunately, I don't think he actually calls him on it, but it's nonsense. It would really have to be an insane response time for to throw it off by that much. 40, more like 40%. You know what?
Numbers.
And then we got
AC, I appreciate you're keeping me honest.
This is a broad look. I'll give you some real details, command by command. Hey, this is where we're having a problem with, and wherever we're having the problems, we'll get the additional resources.
And we want to help, right? So we want to think together about how do we actually improve this. This is a serious concern. I'm raising it because I want to help identify a solution together with you and support whatever we can do.
Absolutely.
And we're going to move to the next member.
Appreciate you pointing this out.
Welcome to the Inquisition. The Inquisition,
Oh,
once
boy.
again,
Here we
of the
go.
New York City Police Department.
This
with about as
lady.
much
Oh, boy.
respect as I don't know what.
Give me my goddamn coffee. I'm gonna call my sister. We're gonna get you. Oh, we're gonna get you real good. Oh, you stupid good for nothings. You don't know nothing about none of this.
This is an embarrassment to the New York City Council that reflects the city of New York, that you are being torn into pieces here. When this is the city council that has defunded you, disarmed you, and has seen you put in the situation that you have been put in today.
We disarmed
and you
the
have
police.
been
That's
abused.
it.
You have been used.
We disarmed the. They don't have guns anymore, people. Who knew? Who knew?
And you have been overworked.
Oh
And
God.
underpaid. And yet you're coming under the scrutiny here of people that don't even have the accurate facts. All they want to do is look for their little snippet.
Why can't you people just come with the facts? I don't appreciate it. This lady is completely unhinged. I'm gonna move us forward, even though it's amusing as shit. I'm gonna move us forward because it's not productive to just sit here and make fun of her. Wait, just kidding.
Of airtime as to how they can condemn the greatest police force in the entire country.
Goddamn police
And
force.
it's an embarrassment to me.
I should throw
and
my
it should
goddamn
be an
coffee straight in your
embarrassment
face.
To this city council. And the fact that the chairman here did not slam his gavel down as he should have to keep the council member and several other council members in control is another embarrassment.
I don't even know where to start with her. Thank God it's over. Oh God, it was painful.
Another 25%.
So
This
painful.
is the fourth lowest year for shootings in the modern era. In
Ooh, the
fact,
modern era. That's fancy.
Shooting incidents were down in all 5 boroughs for the second year in a row. And last year, murder
Last
fell
year.
another 12%. And besides knocking down violence, your offices last year alone made more than 53,000.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna move this forward. We've heard this guy talk plenty, but there is one lady who I found interesting. Oh God damn it! Why can't I? That's good enough. We'll start it here. NYPD defended their plans to make their police band private, which is the radio frequency. They're attempting to encrypt it.
Crickets.
I think there are a variety of reasons which Chief Beltran can get into why we think there are important operational security reasons for encryption. Certainly understand the arguments on the other side of that, and those are real concerns, and we've heard them, and there's, as the Chief said, internal dialogue and discussion about those.
Let's take a look at public relations and DCPI spending. NYPD has recently undertaken a number of new public relations efforts that have raised significant questions, including its use of social media and video production. This includes the publication of an NYPD's Most Wanted video and communications that criticize judges and prosecutors, seeming to attack the credibility of other branches of government involved in the criminal legal system. Who's responsible for vetting the information that comes across? Because a lot of the information...
You don't trust anybody with an NYC accent. That is crazy, Stefan. How is that even a thing, pal? First off, I can think of so many NYC people that are fucking based as fuck. Is this the NYPD Tech Bro? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. What NYPD Tech Bro?
is incorrect.
This is a hearing in New York City over the NYPD fiscal year 2025. And they're claiming they just don't have enough money, and it's making everything super hard, and the protesters, they keep protesting, and it's just, oh, this is so hard.
Over 250 separate social media accounts. In
This guy's
department, our
voice is
executives
hilarious.
and commanders are given
Basic
access
commanders.
to social media accounts in order to inform the public.
He literally
in
sounds
the
like a
area that
munchkin.
they, cover.
Okay, my question still was, who's responsible for vetting the information that comes across? Because there has been significant incorrect information that is potentially harmful, actually, to people out there doing their jobs appropriately and well.
Well, I do think it's actually very important for the department to get its message out there. We are a very important stakeholder in the criminal justice system. And obviously there are a variety of perspectives out there.
Name
but
three:
the department's perspective on matters
AOC,
related to
Bernie,
public
and
safety,
Michael Brooks.
Is, I think, an important voice in the room, so to speak. And getting our message out there, we do it in a variety of ways. And
I wasn't necessarily asking for more funding for my
AOC,
office. I'm
Bernie,
using my
and Michael
platform
Brooks.
today
What do you
to
got?
ask for more
What do you got
resources
from
for
ya?
the Bronx
I'm walking
in
over here.
general. The Community Justice Center, the Rape Crisis Center, more programming, work development for our young people, mental health courts and resources.
So, I mean, you've heard that, yes, as DA McMahon said, there's a common thread. For every dollar that we spend on keeping people out of the criminal justice system, we don't have that money to spend on prosecution. And the truth is, the more money we spend keeping people out of the criminal justice system, the
Jesus Christ. Hold on. We got to move this forward again. These people are so stupid. When does this woman start talking? Oh, there she is. Okay, get in there. Because she actually says some halfway sensible stuff here. There we go.
When you went through the things that you experienced. So, but we need to be able to do the right thing for these kids to make sure that we can get them on the right path, hold them accountable, and accountability looks different for each and every one of them because they're all not the same. You know, and that's what I'm teaching my staff. A 14-year-old who's already out shooting on a subway, you know, and they're telling me how horrible the crime is. And my first question to him is, who is this kid and how did he get a gun at 14?
He's from Brooklyn.
And then when
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. You don't trust her. Jesus Christ. All right, we're moving on just because of the accents for whatever fucking reason. I don't even know why we're doing this. Chat. You and your shenanigans. Okay, this is from 5 hours ago. San Jose police audit reveals use of controversial tactic.
In the South Bay, a new audit of the San Jose Police Department shows there are several areas for improvement. Quad 4's Charles Clifford has the details.
In its annual report, the city of San Jose's independent police auditor found that the police department responded to more than 201,000 calls for service in 2023. Officers also self-initiated more than 87,000 interactions with the public for things like traffic stops. There were also 2 incidents in which officers fired their weapons. The audit also found that there were 367 complaints made against officers, including 47 from within the department. Of those, 249 were accusations of police misconduct, and 36 were complaints about officers using force. From 2022 to 2023, the overall number of complaints against officers dropped. There were also fewer use of force complaints. The audit also highlights several areas where they say officers should receive additional training. In 2 cases, citizens complained that during a traffic stop, an officer had asked, "Are there any dead babies in the car?" Upon further investigation, one officer said that this was an example of shock talk meant to catch a listener off guard and thereby cause a greater likelihood of the listener speaking the truth. The audit recommends that the department should strongly discourage such tactics.
Strongly discourage?
In another complaint, an officer was accused of using excessive force during an arrest. When asked by the suspect why he was being detained, the officer replied, "We just decided to stop a black man for no reason, okay?"
Oh, it's fine.
A review of that incident found that the officer's use of force was within police policy, but that additional training was needed to avoid
You know, it's funny is that police policy oftentimes doesn't somehow, it doesn't meet with the law all that often, for whatever reason. Like, there's the law, and then there's police policy, but they're definitely not the same thing. Okay. Well, good old police policy. Once again, protecting, serving, not causing anybody any sort of distress or problems, and by that I mean
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Okay, moving on. This one fucking shocked me. And not for like a normal reason. It was just because I assumed that this was a given. Like across the country, like I assumed the EPA had gotten on this decades ago, in fact. In my mind, I was like, there's no way. When I saw this come across my feed, I was like, what is it? What does this mean? This can't be real. But let's watch this from a day ago. This is from King 5 Seattle. A huge win, quote unquote. Washington becomes the first state, you heard me right, the first state to regulate lead content in metal cookware. What?
Well, the state is putting companies that make and sell cookware on notice. Get the lead out.
A new Washington law restricts the amount of lead metal allowed in the manufacturing of pots and pans. Last year, the King 5 investigators exposed merchants that ignored warnings about toxic lead in imported cookware.
Now, Chris Ingalls reports on the first of its kind state law to crack down on violators.
We bought all of these pots within the last year on Amazon. In the future, selling any of these in Washington state will be illegal.
That's literally, I think, all we have to hear from the story. It's like 6 minutes long, but just process this for a moment if you're in the United States. Washington is now the only place in the United States where it's illegal to sell you pots such as these, which were bought off of Amazon, which any of us could have bought without knowing, that contain lead. I don't know why, but they do, and for whatever reason, there's been zero regulations around that in cookware, something that you make your food in and then put into your body afterwards. What? Wow. How is that a fucking thing? Am I the only one that's like, confused by this? Just making no sense to me. Oh, God. Oh, chat. I'm not gonna... Okay, well, here we go. We're gonna move on to this, which we're gonna try and power through. We're gonna move through it as fast as possible. But I found this testimony to be quite illuminating, or at least, what's the word? Confirmational. This is from the Associated Press. This was streamed 10 hours ago, live. Boeing whistleblowers testify before Congress about defects in planes.
Your testimony, as I understand it, that the Challenger disaster was a wake-up call.
Stop. Why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate me? Okay, there we go.
Ed Pearson, Executive Director of the Foundation for Aviation Safety and a former Boeing manager. Mr. Pearson is a former senior manager and the current Executive Director of the Foundation for Aviation Safety. He spent 10 years at Boeing and oversaw teams who manufactured Boeing's 737 MAX airplanes. Prior to joining Boeing, Mr. Pearson spent over 30 years in the United States Navy. I believe you're a graduate of the Naval Academy. Joe Jacobson. Mr. Jacobson is a safety and aerospace engineer who spent more than 25 years at the FAA. He retired in 2021. Prior to joining the FAA, he was an engineer at Boeing for 11 years. He now serves as a technical advisor to the Foundation for Aviation Safety.
Sorry, chat.
Dr. Sean Puchnicki. He has a PhD. He's a professional practice assistant
Superman
professor
can't see through lead.
for integrated systems.
That's a good point. So you think that they've been leaving lead in pans just in case Superman kind of just decides to go against Earth. That's interesting. That's an interesting theory.
Engineering at Ohio State University. He is also an aviation safety consultant. He has served as an aviation accident investigator, and he's a former commercial airline pilot. As is our custom, I will swear you in, and then we'll hear your individual testimony. If you would please rise. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. Mr. Salapur, you may begin. Thank you.
Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Johnson, and the honorable members of this subcommittee. Thank you for convening this hearing. My name is Sam Salapur, and I'm a quality engineer at the Boeing. I have over 40 years of experience as an engineer. I'm not here today because I want to be here. I'm here today because I felt that I must come forward because I do not want to see another 787. I do not want to see 787 or 777 crash. I have serious concerns about the safety of the 787 and 777 aircraft, and I'm willing to take on professional risk to talk about them. First, little bit about me. I came to the United States in 1973 and got a mechanical engineering degree from University of Missouri, where Senator Hawley is from. After that, I worked for companies that they were involved in the space shuttle. I had a friend, engineer, that worked on the space shuttle. He was always complaining about the quality of the O-rings that we had in the space shuttle Sauraraka boosters. He was scared that they might fail. He raised his concerns, and he was heard, and he wasn't heard. And 7 brave astronauts, including the teacher in space, died when the challenge its bottlenecks in production. Boeing hit problems, pushing pieces together with excessive force to make him appear that the gaps don't exist, even though they exist. The gap didn't actually go away, and this may result in premature fatigue failure. Effectively, they are putting out defective airplanes. I repeatedly produced reports for my supervisors and Boeing management demonstrating that the gaps in the 787 not being properly measured or shimmed in 2 major joints of the 787. Evaluating from the 29 inspected airplane data, I found gaps exceeding the specification that were not properly addressed 98.7% of the time. I want to repeat that.
The 86 Challenger. Yeah, I think from what he was saying, it sounds like one of his friends worked on the 86 Challenger.
98.7% of the time, the gaps that they were supposed to be shimmed, they were not shimmed. The other issue that I found, when you have these gaps and you drill through them, you get some debris in the stack-ups. This is known to be a problem, not a good thing for the airplanes by Boeing.
Okay. Hold on. There's like a ton of testimony here. Let's move over to here, and then we're gonna move on. This is a long-ass video, and I watched
greater
the whole
goal of providing a robust, effective, and well-proven safety tool for all high-risk industries, especially given.
Oh shit! Too far back. Go. Come on.
About safety. An incorrect understanding of safety culture is that it is commonly referred to as a single concept, but rather it consists of 4 individual specific components, whereas each one provides its own unique actions to the overall concept of safety culture. And without one of these, the element and structure of culture will fall apart. As such, each serves the greater goal of providing a robust, effective, and well-proven safety tool for all high-risk industries, especially given its proven value in aerospace industries. It should be made clear this culture concept is not only for airline operations, but rather any aerospace operation where risk of injury or death is a possibility to employees and/or customer.
I would go further than that. I mean, this guy's very focused on the aerospace and the aviation industry, but I would go much further than that and say any industry that have the ability to kill somebody or maim them or harm them in a great way should be regulated better for the safety aspects.
product delivery. This is extremely important in determining an organization's overall safety culture as they all complement each other. To be successful, organizations may not simply choose one or two of these components because they are less expensive or more manageable.
Okay, hold on. We're going to move on to this next one. This thing is like 2 hours long, and I was considering, but I started so late today, we really don't have time to go through this whole thing. So we're just going to watch this next video where Reuters kind of sums it up for us. Whistleblower accuses Boeing of a criminal cover-up. Although, actually, maybe we could watch part of that. Where is that one? Is it right here? No. Where is it? Nah, fuck it. We're just gonna go. We go to this one. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I've done everything I can to continue telling the world the MAX airplane is still unsafe and to alert authorities to Boeing's dangerous manufacturing. The manufacturing conditions that led to the two 737 MAX disasters also led to the Alaskan blowout accident. And these conditions continue. The world is shocked to learn about Boeing's current production quality issues. I'm not surprised because nothing changed after the two crashes. There was no accountability. Not a single person from Boeing went to jail. Hundreds of people died, and there's been no justice. Unless action is taken and leaders are held accountable, every person stepping aboard a Boeing airplane is at risk. The NTSB chair reiterated to Congress last week that Boeing has said there are no records documenting the removal of the Alaska Airlines door. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cover-up. Records do, in fact, exist. I know this because I've personally passed them to the FBI. Boeing's corporate leaders continue to conceal the truth. They continue to mislead and deceive the public about the safety of the planes. That is the safety culture at the top of the Boeing company right now. The good news is the employees of Boeing and these agencies can overcome poor leadership. We need them to be successful. They're highly capable. They need to be supported and encouraged. And these problems are fixable, but it starts with telling the truth.
Yep, 100%. And we need more whistleblowers like him coming out and telling the truth about these companies that are essentially just doing whatever the fuck they want for profit. Okay, moving on to people doing whatever the fuck they want for profit. Here's Reuters from 8 hours ago. Investors want answers from Musk on affordable car.
Tesla investors are restless. Nearly 2 weeks ago, Reuters exclusively reported the company had scrapped plans for a lower-cost electric vehicle. Tesla denied the report, and CEO Elon Musk wrote, quote, "Reuters is lying" on his social media platform X. But since then, he has left shareholders hanging, providing no concrete updates on the status of the car, a Model 2 EV that would start at $25,000. Now some are demanding clear answers, not only about the car, but also about Musk's plans for addressing a sales slide amid falling demand worldwide and rising competition from cheaper Chinese EVs. On top of that, Tesla this week announced it was laying off 10% of its global workforce, which is why Musk's silence on the Model 2 is all the more, quote, gut-wrenching, said one analyst, who called the car instrumental to the company's growth. A wealth manager and Tesla shareholder put it even more bluntly, telling Reuters, quote, "There's no point in even investing in Tesla if they don't come out with this car." On the same day as the Reuters report, Musk made things even murkier, posting another comment that said the company's self-driving robo-taxi would be unveiled on August 8th.
Good God, we do not need a Tesla robo-taxi in any way at all. But leave it to Elon Musk to give us things we don't need. Okay, moving on to this one. State senator from San Jose pushes new driverless vehicle bill.
Well, happening today, the first real test for a state bill calling for more local control over the expansion of self-driving taxis. The Bay Area state lawmaker is behind it. He wants cities to decide if robo-taxis should even be allowed. Today in the Bay's Chris Sanchez live in Mountain View this morning. She's outside of Alphabet headquarters. And Chris, this bill could put the brakes on Waymo's plan to really expand outside of San Francisco.
Laura, at this point, when we move from community to community in our cars, we have to abide by each of the regulations for each of those communities. And driverless cars at this point do not. They're only regulated by the state. So today, State Senator Dave Cortese will introduce the bill that will change that. He is going to introduce what is formally called the Autonomous Vehicle Service Deployment and Data Transparency Act. That's a mouthful, so you'll want to listen for Senate Bill 915. This one would align regulations for driverless cars with the regulations the rest of us have to abide by as drivers of cars. The state would keep its authority in many of the areas, but local police could ticket cars and communities could keep those autonomous vehicles out of areas of concern, which could keep them from blocking emergency personnel from responding and subject them to the same DMV registration requirements that the rest of us have as well.
When I heard that, I was like blown away. I assumed that these driverless cars had to have DMV registration and all this other shit. And it is confusing as fuck how it's possible that it doesn't.
Cortese's push took on new urgency last month when state regulators approved Waymo's expansion onto the peninsula and also Los Angeles.
I think giving cities who know their communities best, giving them the opportunity to pass ordinary local laws, around speed limits and drop-off zones and accountability. What does it mean if an autonomous vehicle is parked?
Yeah, I feel like most areas are actually areas of concern, Stefan. I totally see what you're saying there. Because the fact is AI still does a pretty shitty job on recognizing small humans like children, dogs, cats, things like that. It doesn't pick up as well, right? They're working on it, but does that mean? Yeah, apparently up till now they couldn't even be ticketed, which makes no fucking sense to me. They're on the road. Is there some sort of significance to the numbers 88? Because I actually don't know what that is.
Inappropriately blocking a driveway or something like that. Who gets ticketed for that? Who pays for that?
Now, the most recent statement we have from...
As always, we'll take a careful and incremental approach to expansion by continuing to work closely with city officials, local communities, and our partners to ensure we're offering a service that's safe, accessible, and valuable to our riders. How great, how good and great for them. Meanwhile, for the rest of us who are guinea pigs, not so great. Oh, God, ew, oh, ew, FG. Honestly, nothing like that ever seems like a mistake with Elon. The only mistake about it is when he realizes that people know what he's talking about and then has to backtrack it, but it's never a mistake. And so, yeah, thank you for that. I honestly was not aware of that at all. God, okay. Moving on. This one is real dumb. And by dumb, I mean stupid. And by stupid, I mean nonsense, as you'll see in a moment. This is a new California bill which would supposedly boost homeowners' insurance protections. However, as you'll see here, protections is being used somewhat loosely, and there will be no sort of attempt to keep prices from increasing on insurance or stopping the cancellations of insurance. Anyway, let's move on and watch this video. Well, that makes me sad because I was born in '88. Cut that.
Well, new for you this morning, there is new hope for California homeowners facing rising insurance costs. Lawmakers now considering a new bill to boost protections. Today in the Bay's Bob Riddell, live for us in Livermore this morning. So Bob, if this bill becomes law, what can we expect to happen here?
Well, good morning, Jim Marcus. The big question is how much could this improve our bills? It is not clear what impact, if any, this would have on how much we pay for homeowner insurance here in the state of California. State Senator Josh Becker, he's a Democrat out of Menlo Park, has put forth a bill that would force home insurers like State Farm and others to take into consideration the billions of dollars the state has spent on wildfire mitigation and all the work homeowners have done to protect their homes from wildfires, like creating defensible space around their property. Becker tells the Mercury News that insurance companies are not taking those facts into consideration when calculating insurance coverage and its cost to homeowners. SB 1060, that's the bill, would require this. The bill, however, would not require the insurance to pass on any sort of discount, just that they consider the work that has been done to better protect property.
Oh, it's so
the American
thoughtful.
Property Casualty Insurance Association, which represents state insurance companies, told the paper that the state already requires companies to model these mitigation efforts into their coverage, and that the state will soon require new regulations surrounding this kind of modeling. Now, many homeowners across the state have seen their insurance bills go up in recent years to cover the costs of wildfires, and some...
So, this is why this bill is freaking stupid, okay? All it does, really, it seems like, is add a layer of regulations in this. And usually I'm not a real critic of having regulations, but in this case, it doesn't seem to be doing fuck all, aside from causing more headache for homeowners. It's not protecting homeowners at all, right? In no way is it passing on savings. In no way is it, limiting insurance companies' abilities to be in mass canceling policies. There's all this other shit that they could be regulating, but they're not. Instead, they're just saying, hey, insurance companies, you should be thinking about fires some more. It's like, oh, thanks. It's like, what? How is that helpful? How is that helpful to anybody? I just don't understand. I don't understand it. Because the fact is that there should be regulations right now, considering what's been happening in the insurance industry with them canceling homeowners insurance policies, just like at will, jacking up rates as a result of it, as well as just as a result of greed, and it's fucked. Insurance is a scam to some degree. You could easily make the argument, but it's an essential part of our society technically. So that's why it's an important thing to talk about. People are paying. I don't know the exact number, but there's billions and billions and billions of dollars being spent just on insurance alone for buildings. So yeah, just being real, it's just a massive part of our. And I'm not saying that it should be, you know what I mean? Like I have so many criticisms of the system, but the fact is we have, like, you still have to at least, what's the word? Find a way to function and also criticize the system as is, right? Fucking hell. All right, I'm moving on. I think people get what I'm trying to say here. We should be regulating to help protect homeowners, not to shit on them. Because the fact is the harder it is to get a hold of insurance, right? The harder it is for the more difficult it is for people to make the consideration to even get a house. I mean, there's an entire generation of people right now who are struggling to even make that consideration, let alone having more shit like this to make it difficult. All right, what's next? Short-term rental owners test. Oh, this one's great. Oh boy, are you in for a treat? Short-term rental property owners testify against bill that would increase their property taxes. Oh, this is so sad. Oh, this one's really sad, chat. Go, web, go.
Tonight, we're following up on a bill that would have increased property taxes on short-term vacation rentals in Colorado.
We first told you about this Sunday night, how the sponsor of the bill planned to gut it and make it just a study on the economic impact of those rentals. Denver 7 reporter and attorney Jessica Crawford in the studio tonight. Jessica, the bill now goes to a Senate committee.
That's right. Multiple people testified.
I love how they feel like they need a serious study about it. It's so easy to see what's happening. It's plain as day.
Tonight. Right now, many of the short-term rental owners shared the same message that they just can't afford a tax increase. This bill discussed tonight originally aimed to increase property taxes on some vacation rentals. Now it's
Oh God, not these poor Airbnb landlords. They might have to pay more taxes because they're profiting like a business. Oh, it's crazy. What does this world come to?
To be scaled back dramatically after heavy opposition. Short-term rental owners claim that it could hurt tourism and the businesses that support their rental properties, like housekeepers. Originally, Senate Bill 33 would have classified any short-term rental leased for more than 90 days a year as a lodging property, increasing their taxes. State Senator Chris Hansen is sponsoring the bill, and he's considering, with an amendment, changing the threshold from 90 days a year to 200 days a year to
Wow, it is ridiculous that they feel like they need to move the goalpost on that. Like, if you're short-term renting your property, you're a hotel. You run a small hotel, okay? This is the business that you've gone into. It's not a business. People want to pretend like it's not a business. They've made it a business, okay? And hotels used to be limited, right? Were there a couple of B&Bs in places, of course, but majority of housing used to be places where people lived year-round. And with the creation of Airbnb, that's completely changed, right? The short-term rentals have absolutely just turned the rental and even the buying of a properties market just a complete farce. Like when you look at it, like, people are just going out and buying whatever they can if they've got the money for it, and then just turning it into Airbnb and leaving it to sit while people are homeless, while people are struggling to find places that meet their needs, and it's nonsense that people can't, that lawmakers want to pretend like they can't see what's happening, what the effects are. It's ridiculous. And it's because it's big business. It's because it's big business, and there's a lot of money in this right now.
Qualify as a lodging property. Another big change, commissioning a study on the subject instead of enacting a law. Some of the short-term rental owners are concerned that study will eventually lead to a fee.
Short-term rental hosts are just average, everyday people. It's somebody that wants to rent out a basement to offset their mortgage. It's somebody that wants.
Now, I'm pretty sure that this woman is in like some sort of what do you call it? Like a governmental building. But it looks like she's in like some sort of fucking palace right now, and it's a bad look when you're literally crying about taxes because you're landlording.
Short-term rental hosts are just average, everyday people.
Everyday people.
Somebody that wants to.
Everybody has a rental
rent out
house.
A basement to offset their mortgage. It's somebody that wants.
Real quick poll in chat. Who here? Press 1 if you have a rental house. Aside from your current residence, just to make sure, because she says average everyday people. I just want to check if average everyday people also have rental. Maybe I'm just completely living in some sort of dream world.
Dream house in the mountains, and they can only afford it if they have short-term rental income. I think sometimes that we're put into this category of hotels, or we're put into this category of large corporations, but yet we're just trying to achieve the American dream.
Many of the people who testified tonight were
the American dream of depriving people of housing in order to turn a profit. Yeah, that's the American dream, all right. Turn every neighborhood into just a massive Airbnb listing. Huh, weird. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of ones in chat right now. Might be because people's fingers are broken, or she was wrong. Average everyday people don't own short-term rentals. Those are people with money, with genuine, decent money. If you can live in a different place and then rent another building on a short-term basis for income, you're living in a corporation's rental home. So it sounds like a no. I'm hearing no's in chat. That's all I'm getting. It's weird. Maybe we're just weird people. All of us are just super weird. We don't own rental properties. We're not living the American dream, folks. That's the problem. Okay. Anyways, if you haven't picked up on it, I was being very sarcastic that whole time. This woman's a fucking nut. And the fact that she thinks that somehow she's a victim because she might have to pay more taxes on her short-term rental, Airbnbs, or whatever the fuck they are. She's losing her goddamn mind. Okay. And speaking of it, of people who are unhoused, this is from Denver 7 from a day ago. City of Denver sweeps homeless encampment without offering housing to residents.
For the first time in months, the city swept an encampment today without offering housing to the people impacted. And that contradicts a promise by the mayor not to clear camps without a place for people to go.
Denver 7's Christian Lopez has more on the outrage and frustration, plus how the mayor's office is responding tonight.
Around 150 people had to pack up their belongings and leave this large encampment on 8th and Navajo in Denver, but they say they're being forced to leave with nowhere to go.
They said they don't care where we go as long as it's not here.
For the first time in months, there was a large encampment sweep in Denver without any direct housing help for those impacted.
They're not offering you any sort of shelter or anything, any resources?
Not to me.
Homeless advocates argue the sweep to nowhere directly contradicts Mayor Mike Johnston's campaign.
You know what's weird, chat? I just did a little bit of research, just quick Google search, you know me. As it turns out, only 7% of tax filers can be considered landlords. Is 7% average? I'm trying to figure out how average works. 7% out of 100%. That's weird. It doesn't seem average. It seems like it's in the 93rd percentile and up. So very much not average. In fact, quite the opposite. Just fucking elitist bullshit. So that woman who was claiming it was an average thing just straight up lied to us because that's how she feels. She feels inside that it's average people. But she's just a Karen.
Promise.
The old camping ban enforcement was people are living on a block and you want them not to be living there, and so you force them to move all their stuff and move off that block. The difference here is we are waiting for us to bring housing units on. When housing units are available, then we would come to people in an encampment and say, we now have housing units to move you to. Let us help you move with those units.
He said he would not sweep large encampments until he had somewhere for them to go.
I am angry. I am just so frustrated. It's the mayor's plan, and he's not following it.
Amy Beck, with the group Together Denver, took matters into her own hands.
A lot of people have disabilities. They have problems moving around.
Beck showed up to the encampment with this U-Haul. She is taking people wherever they would like to go. She says most of them are just forming new encampments in other areas.
They're just moving a few streets over, and then we'll be listening to that neighborhood complain about the homeless issue in their neighborhood.
She's so right.
Do you know where you're going to go after this?
She's so right. And if you didn't hear her over my laughing, I don't blame you. I'm sorry for the laughter. But what she said was they're just moving a couple of streets over and setting up. And that within a couple of weeks, it'll be that neighborhood that's complaining about them. And this is this is verbatim what I think I've said multiple times. But this is the cycle that continues over and over again. When you just shift homeless people, they're just going to continue moving around from place to place until everybody has, I don't know, turned their street into a gated community. It's just, it's insanity, right? You can't continue to push people away and not solve the situation. It can't be this hot potato game of homeless people, right? It's unacceptable. The way to solve this is to create housing, to stop letting people like that woman that was complaining about her taxes for her Airbnb and put these houses back on, like, you know, like the regular market. Put it like, and the fact is, it's not just houses, right? There's plenty of people who are doing this with apartments too. You might not be aware of this, but there's groups of people who have, in some cases, created corporations to deal with the amount of money they're making, but they go out and they rent an apartment like they're going to live in it, and instead they furnish it, they put it on Airbnb, and they rinse and repeat as many times as they possibly can. And so it's happening to all levels of housing right now, and it's not necessarily noticeable unless you're looking into it, but it's absolutely happening. It's a huge contributor to the houseless epidemic that's currently, like, it's seemingly underway. It seems to be getting worse and worse every day.
No. Haven't even thought about it, really. I've sat out here for years and try to think, you know, what would make a difference? How could it, you know, what is the change that needs to be made? And you know what? I don't know. I know that people should at least care, but they don't.
In Denver, I'm Christian Lopez, Denver 7.
Okay, well, Denver's not dealing with it correctly, as maybe we should have expected. But yeah, I mean, someone at some point is just going to say, let's house homeless people. You would think it's the obvious answer. Okay, moving on. Oh, this is another infuriating story about the state of housing, not just in the United States, but this one's in Canada. This is from CBC. Could NB tenants face big rent hikes next year? Wait, is NB New Brunswick? I always forget.
If you look at figures from Service New Brunswick, the amount of taxes levied against apartment buildings in New Brunswick might be misleading. That's because while the assessed values are accurate, that might not be the case for the amount of taxes the landlord actually paid. Since 2022, apartment owners have been protected against large increases in the assessed value by which their properties can go up by. Every year, Service New Brunswick assesses the value of apartment buildings and then applies a municipal tax and a provincial tax based on that amount. Those bills then get mailed out to landlords every spring. But for those 3 years, the province put a 10% cap on the taxable amount that an apartment building's value could go up by. That annual spike protection is expected to continue thanks to new legislation. But before that happens, any untaxed assessment increases from the last 3 years will be lumped into next year's bill.
Well, taxes for our business represents 35 to 40% of our operating costs. So with that going up 44 to 54% in 2 years, it's obviously going to mean a major impact on tenants.
So if you're not understanding exactly what's happening here, let me break it down for you. This guy you see in front of you here in the nice sweater and shirt, he owns some apartment buildings, it would seem. He's complaining about the fact that his property value has gone up. His wealth, his theoretical wealth, has increased, and he's very upset about that because it means he's going to have to pay more taxes, and that's bad, right? Let's see what he wants to do about the fact that he might have to pay more taxes on once again, a business, something that he's making money on actively.
Just as an example, this building here on Fredericton's Abbott Court has grown in assessed value by 64% since 2021. If you look online, records show the building cost about $161,000 in property taxes this year. But Colpitts Developments, the building's owner, actually paid $130,000 in taxes thanks to the spike protection. With this gap in spike protection...
So if you're not understanding that part of it, the corporate landlords have been getting tax deductions, essentially, just for nothing, just because. They've just been paying less taxes than you probably would on your house if you lived in the same area, right? They're just getting free money.
Expected next year, the building's tax bill could rise by 23%, assuming there's no decrease in its value.
We're hoping that the government will meet with us again, have some more information.
By the way, I'll bet that if you ever have any problems with your tax, like being too high, you could also have, nice meetings with the government and tell them what you want out of your tax bill.
What they're going to do and fix this, because
Yeah.
we're in a housing crisis right now, and we don't want our tenants to get increases in their rent like that. Like that is the last thing that we want.
So you heard it correctly, chat. If taxes go up, he's gonna charge people more rent because he has to make money, right, on housing, on where people live, right? That's his whole game, right? So if his expenses go up, he's gonna charge people more rent. This is the fucking problem with the system that we have. Like people like him get a free ride essentially, right? The government allows him to pay less taxes on a building where other people live. And then, if something goes wrong from it, and he passes it along to everybody else, even though he's been living it up, getting tons of, clearly getting paid good, right? Shopping at LL Bean, and, yeah, kind of living off of the backs of other people, right? And now he says the government either needs to work with him or these people's rents are going to go up. Well, you know what? I think maybe we should have all these buildings get taken over by the tenants. Maybe they should create, a tenant, like entity, right? And take over the fucking building. If you don't want to pay the taxes, if you don't want to deal with all this stuff, right? If it's too much of a burden and you gotta make people's lives worse, then maybe you should let them own it. Because I'm kind of sick of hearing people like that complaining. Oh, my tax bill's too high. Like, dude, how much I'll bet you this guy makes $500,000 from this one property per year. It's just a guess. It looks quite big. Yeah, he's a fucking leech. He's complaining because his value of his property is gone. Because I would point out, if you went to sell that property, right, he would technically make money, right? He could do that. There's all sorts of things he could do. He could take a fucking hit too, by the way, but he's not gonna. Okay, what's next? Okay, let's look real quick at some Trump. Well, actually, just one Trump-related thing. This is from CNN from a day ago. 7 jurors are now officially seated in Trump's hush money trial.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And let's begin with the breaking news. The second day of Donald Trump's hush money trial wrapping up just a little while ago. The proceedings gaining momentum today with 7 jurors seated after an afternoon of intense questioning.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
CNN's Kara Scannell has details from just outside the courthouse in New York. Kara,
I don't know how I feel about leaving you with CNN. I don't know if I can let them just go.
Moments ago, a 7th juror was seated in this trial. He's a male, he's a civil litigator, and he said he had some views about Trump during his presidency. He said likely he didn't agree with him, but he said he could be fair and impartial. This coming after another full day of jury selection, where there are now 7 jurors seated in this case.
It's this very, massive sense of gravitas and importance, because you know that this is history in the making.
Dozens more potential jurors filed into a Manhattan courtroom Tuesday, and 6 jurors were seated as jury selection continued into day 2 of the first criminal trial of a former president. The seated jurors include an Irishman in sales, a female oncology nurse, a corporate male lawyer, an English teacher at a charter school, a software engineer, and an owner of an IT business. The jury selection strategy for both parties taking shape. Trump attorneys spending the afternoon digging into the social media post of some potential jurors. 2 were struck for cause. 1 for a social media post referencing Trump and, quote, lock him up. When a prosecutor asked the juror if he still believes Trump should be locked up, the juror answered no. Trump was seen craning his neck toward him and flashing a smirk. Judge Juan Merchan issued a stern warning to Trump after he visibly reacted to a juror's answers about a video she posted on social media. He warned Trump's lawyer, "Your client was audibly uttering, 'I will not have any jurors intimidated in the courtroom.'" That juror was questioned outside the presence of the others about a video she posted on social media showing an outdoor celebration, quote, spreading the honking cheer around Election Day 2020. She said it was a New York celebratory moment. Trump's lawyers suggested she was biased. The judge said he believed the juror could be fair and didn't excuse.
Here's the thing. Is anybody in the United States unaware of Donald Trump? Right? I don't think there's a single person above 18 able to sit on a jury that doesn't have an opinion about Donald Trump. It's just a fact. You know? He was the president of the United States. Like, it's kind of hard not to know things about Donald Trump.
Trump's attorney Todd Blanche telling those in the jury pool, quote, it's extraordinarily important to President Trump that we know we're going to get a fair shake. One juror said he finds Trump fascinating because he, quote, walks into a room and he sets people off one way or the other. Blanche seemed amused with the response. Another juror said she learned for the first time Tuesday that Trump has been charged in 3 other cases. Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass addressed prospective jurors, asking them to set aside any strong feelings. He asked each to consider if they would be able to look defendant Trump in the eye and return a guilty verdict if the case is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Trump appeared to look at the jurors, tilting his head once or twice as they were answering yes, according to pool reports. One juror, who was excused after she said she had a scheduling conflict, described her experience to CNN.
At the same time, you walk into the courtroom and you see Trump sitting there. I had never seen him in person before. You see him sitting there and it's like, oh, it's just a guy.
Okay. Just wanted to clue people in on what's happening with the hush money trial, as I've been trying to at least do a third way decent job on keeping track of Trump's different trials, but it is it's quite a freaking errand, being honest. Jesus Christ, how far are we in right now? Jesus, okay. I guess I'm gonna have to continue moving forward here. But first, let's watch this fun video. This is, well, it's fun and infuriating at times. But this is from The Good Liars from a day ago. This video is entitled Selling Trump Bibles at a Trump Rally.
We're outside a Trump rally now. Trump is just selling Bibles for $60.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible.
So we created our own Bible, the Trump Bible. Get your Bibles, get your Trump Bibles here. The good book is now a great book.
It's like the Bible, but better. The Bible's out of date. This is making the good book great again.
Would you guys like to get grifted from selling Bibles?
They're cautionary parables. There's so much to be learned from Donald Trump's life.
This is a passage from the Trump Bible.
One day, a great plague swept across the land, spreading fear and devastation in its wake. As the death toll mounted and communities cried out for help, Donald Trump found himself faced with a grave test of leadership. Donald Trump said unto the people, I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. Is there any way we could do something like that? Injection or something? Almost like cleaning?
Donald Trump said unto his servants, I shall change the path of the hurricane with thy Sharpie.
Among the listeners...
I'm sorry, chat. We got to go back 10 seconds to see that one guy like look over this Bible, thinking maybe.
Maybe we could do something like that, injection or something, almost like cleaning.
Donald Trump said unto his servants, I shall change the path of the hurricane with thy Sharpie.
Among the listeners was a humble tradesman named Billy Bush, who listened in shock and dismay as Donald Trump boasted about his ability to take whatever he desired, regardless of consent or consequence. And Donald Trump said unto Billy Bush, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
This is the Obama passage.
love how
Fueled
these
by
people-
his bigotry and ambition, Donald Trump spared.
I feel like the average look people give them on these rallies is one of just like they're like in a stupor, right? Like hearing negative things about Trump in person for them seems to be like the sort of vibe I'm getting is like internal schism, right? Like an earthquake of the mind. Like they're looking off into the distance, like a sort of, startled deer, trying to contemplate like this sort of existential crisis. It's kind of fascinating.
Effort in spreading his malicious lie far and wide.
Because you'll notice, like during this video, like there's not a lot of people who actually try and talk to him about this shit. But there's a few, but most people are just like dead-eyed zombies.
To sow doubt and division among the people and seize power for himself. Trump said unto the people, check his birth certificate.
Is that Walter Masterson? No, wait. Jules, are you behind right now by like an hour? If so, you're not even hearing my voice, so I don't know why I'm asking you a question. God damn it.
This is from election 2020. As the ballots were counted and as the results announced, it became clear that Donald Trump had not secured enough votes to win the election and remain in power. However, instead of accepting the outcome with grace and dignity, Donald Trump refused to concede defeat. Donald Trump proclaimed the election to be fraudulent and rigged.
As chaos unfolded, a voice echoed from the heavens, calling out to Donald Trump and urging him to heed the principles of justice and democracy. Respect the will of the people, the voice implored, and accept the outcome of the election. For the strength of our nation lies in its adherence to the rule of law and the peaceful transfer of power.
Do you see all of them trying to herd them along? Like, it's like this, it really is a big-ass cult vibe at these places, right? Like, there's like, oh, no, don't let the snake fool you with his words.
But Donald Trump, blinded by his pride and ambition, turned a deaf ear.
Trump Bible, cautionary parables, all the stuff not to do, really.
A great storm was coming across a great land. And Donald Trump said unto his servants, I shall change the path of the hurricane with this Sharpie. How did that make you feel, that Bible story?
That's not a Bible story.
No, it is a Bible story. It is. It's in the Trump Bible. See? Trump Bible, and it's a story in it, so it's a Bible story.
We must protect content that is pro-God.
There is only one Bible.
No, the old Bible is a little out of date, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, making the good book great.
It's not out of date. The world
Trump
is
is
out
not
of date.
God. God
Oh, the world. Did you hear that guy?
This is a new
The
book of
world
the
is
Bible.
out of date. That was his big zinger. The world is out of date, not the Bible. By the way, that's not how out of date works.
I'm going to where? Going to hell?
Jesus,
I'm going to
I
hell
say
because
that.
I made the Trump Bible?
Let's see your book.
What's that?
What is it?
So it's a Trump Bible. It's
Show me.
brand new Bible stories based on the life of Donald Trump.
There's one Bible. It's a mockery.
It- it's not a mockery. No, it's a better version.
It's a better.
What?
Stop trying to exploit people.
No, that's blasphemy to sell Bibles, isn't it?
Oh, it's blasphemy to sell Bibles?
Yeah, isn't it?
I guess so, but Donald Trump's selling $60 Bibles right
I
now.
know, I can't believe it.
We love
I
God.
don't want reality.
The Bible says no scriptures of any private interpretation, so it's not given by man, it's given by God.
But so what did you think about Donald Trump selling it for $60?
Well, I'm not going to buy one, that's for sure.
Okay.
Donald Trump has been selling the Bible.
I think he does.
He does sell it. With Lee Greenwood.
I'm proud to partner with Lee in this offering. He's a very special man.
But is selling
Very
Bibles to
special
supporters
man.
a grift?
And we have to protect anything that is pro-God.
But as his presidency came to the end, Donald Trump's thirst for wealth and power knew no bounds. Blinded by greed and ambition, he concocted a deceitful scheme to exploit the trust and devotion of his followers. Turning to the sacred scriptures for inspiration, Donald Trump saw an opportunity to profit from the faith of his loyal followers. He commissioned the printing of countless Bibles.
I think you all should get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible now and help spread our Christian values with others.
Don't listen to.
They're doing the Lord's work. I mean that literally. Hail Cthulhu. Okay, what's next? It's amusing. And there's a little bit more to that, but I just figured we'd move it along. I think we get the point. It's currently at Trump rallies, the assumed position is head in sand. Okay, moving along. Really quickly, we're going to talk about this impeachment trial for Alejandro Mayorkas, and we're going to do it in 2.5 minutes. Let's see if we can make it happen. Associated Press first, actually in second. 2 videos, 1 Mayorkas.
A quorum is present pursuant to Rule 3 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate when sitting on impeachment trials, the hour of 1:00 p.m. having arrived and a quorum having been established, the Senate will proceed to consideration of the articles of impeachment against Alejandro N. Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security.
Madam President.
Majority Leader is recognized.
At this time, pursuant to Rule 3 of the Senate Rules on Impeachment in the United States Constitution, the President pro tem emeritus, the Senator from Iowa, will now administer the oath to the President pro tem, Patty Murray.
Hands on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear that in all things appertaining to the trial of impeachment of Alejandro N. Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, now pending, you will do impartial justice according to the Constitution and laws, so help you God?
I do. At this time, I will administer the oath to all senators in the chamber in conformance with the Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 of the Constitution.
Okay, now moving on to this next video.
We're deeply disappointed in the Senate's action. The Senate's action they've just taken on the Mayorkas impeachment proceedings. There should have been a full trial.
Aww.
The American people should have been able to see the evidence and evaluate for themselves what I think they know already intuitively, and that is that Secretary Mayorkas had a fantastical breach of duty. If there's ever been a cabinet secretary that
That is a good use of the word fantastical in the literal sense, in that it's a fantasy. He's just making up shit, which is fun. I like it.
To be impeached, he is that. And the idea that the Senate and under Chuck Schumer's leadership voted on party lines to not even allow the American people to evaluate the evidence is shameful. I think it's a violation of their constitutional
How old is
responsibility.
Chuck Grassley?
And I think there'll be a reckoning.
102 years old. It's got to be close, I'll be honest. I don't know the exact figure, but I'd stand behind that guess.
Schumer's leadership voted on party lines to not even allow the American people to evaluate the evidence is shameful. I think it's a violation of their constitutional responsibility. And I think there'll be a reckoning for all this in the election cycle in the fall. I really do.
What's going on in the Senate is a charade. There's no justification, no foundation, no basis for pursuing the impeachment.
Now, of course, I'm not here to defend the Department of Homeland Security. I actually happen to find most of the organizations under the umbrella of the DHS organization to be pretty shitty. Now, they include things like the TSA, Border Patrol, the Secret Service, and the only one that I really am okay with existing, honestly, is like FEMA. Right, the Flood and Emergency Management Association. Is that what it's called? I always forget. The point is that, the rest of them are to varying degrees of garbage. Like, maybe the Secret Service should exist, maybe it shouldn't, but, you know what I mean? Like the TSA and Border Patrol? No, I'm not going to be here to defend those two organizations. Not going to catch me sleeping. What's next? God damn it, I'm moving so slowly today. Why? Why, chat? Why am I moving so slowly? Okay, let's catch part of this top U.S. and world headlines from April 17th from Democracy Now! Well, actually, we're just going to watch the top U.S. headlines.
Welcome to...
Amy, hold on. Hold on, Amy. Here seems good.
University is testifying before Congress today. The first 7 jurors have been selected in Donald Trump's hush money criminal trial. Jury selections expected to continue on Thursday. Opening arguments could begin as soon as Monday. Judge Juan Merchan has admonished the former president for intimidating jurors after Trump was heard muttering something under his breath during jury selection. On Tuesday, Trump reportedly fell asleep during the proceedings for a second day in a row. Trump's charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to hide a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. The U.S. Supreme Court's weighing whether the Justice Department has improperly used a federal obstruction law to charge more than 350 people involved in the January 6th insurrection. Several justices appeared skeptical of the DOJ's reasoning during oral arguments Tuesday. This is Justice Clarence Thomas.
There have been many violent protests that have interfered with proceedings.
Wow,
As the government,
really? I haven't seen any of those.
To other protests in the past. And
like, have you, chat? What is he talking about? Violent protests that have kept the Supreme Court from doing their job? Does anybody know what he's talking about? Because I genuinely am lost.
Has this been the government's position throughout the lifespan of the statute?
Justice Thomas has refused to recuse himself from cases related to the January 6th insurrection, even though his wife, Ginny Thomas, attended Trump's Stop the Steal rally on the Eclipse just before Trump supporters attacked the Capitol. The Supreme Court's decision could also impact the prosecution of Donald Trump, who faces 4 counts under the law, which was passed after the Enron scandal. The possible extradition of imprisoned WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange to the United States has edged a step closer. On Tuesday, the Biden administration provided assurances to the British High Court that Assange would not face the death penalty and that his First Amendment rights would be protected if he were to be extradited from Britain, where he's been locked up for years. Assange's wife, Stella, slammed the U.S. response, saying, quote, "The diplomatic note does nothing to relieve our family's extreme distress about his future, his grim expectation of spending the rest of his life in isolation in U.S. prison for publishing award-winning journalism," she said. In news from India, security forces have killed 29 Maoist rebels in the central state of Chhattisgarh, just days before India's national elections begin. It was one of the deadliest attacks on the Naxalite movement in years. In news from Capitol Hill, Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie of Kentucky has joined Congressmember Marjorie Taylor Greene's bid to oust Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson. Massie made the announcement a day after Johnson unveiled a plan to advance separate bills to send aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. Meanwhile, House Republicans have finally sent articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the Senate. In voting news, Maine's become the latest state to join the National Popular Vote Compact, which could transform the way presidents are elected in the United States. 16 states and Washington, D.C. have now pledged to award their combined 209 electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the nation.
Oh, hold on. We have everybody listen to this. Hold on. Back it up, Amy. Let's try this again. This is important as fuck. And I had not considered this until I wasn't even aware of this effort until Amy brought it up in this story. And I'm not shocked that it wasn't made clear by other news outlets, but check this out.
To the Senate. In voting news, Maine's become the latest state to join the National Popular Vote Compact, which could transform the way presidents are elected in the United States. 16 states and Washington, D.C. have now pledged to award their combined 209 electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the nationwide popular vote. The compact will only go into effect once supporters of the compact control at least 270 votes. Support for the National Popular Vote Compact has grown in recent years after both George W. Bush and Donald Trump were elected president.
Okay, so, real quick, I'm trying to Google this, but I also just want to make sure everybody's on the same page as I am right now. 17 states, I think she said, well, 16 states including D.C., which isn't a state, so I guess 17 is wrong, have essentially voted for I believe she called it a compact, which would, in effect, abolish the electoral college. It would, and currently, if you didn't hear her correctly, or if you didn't hear it all, we're at 209. We need 270, right? We need to essentially be able to get to 270 as if the electoral college still exists, right? So every state from here, I'm trying to get the information on which states are still left, but this shit is like super important. I mean, I don't know how many of you have thought to yourself, geez, the electoral college seems pretty fucking unfair, but yeah, we have 209 so far. I'm trying to look up the map right now, but I'm talking too much. Okay, I think I found it. No. Oh, there's gotta be a better way to look at this. Oh god, why don't they have oh, this website sucks. Oh god, I need a better list than this. This is terrible. I'm not going one by one. Oh, found it. Found it. I found it. Fuck yes. Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, the current states that have signed so far are Maryland, New Jersey, Illinois, Hawaii, Washington, Massachusetts, D.C., Vermont, California, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, Colorado, Delaware, New Mexico, Oregon, Minnesota, and Maine. If you did not hear your state on that list, and you think that it could get onto that list, depending on the vibe of your state that you live in, I genuinely recommend that you call your representatives and tell them that you want them to vote for this shit. And let's pull up this graph, well, not graph, but a map here, so we can look at the map as it currently stands. We can kind of see who is open right now. Okay. Is this big enough? Fuck, this is too small. Make this bigger. That's what she said. Okay, it is actually kind of better. No, why would you do this to me? You bastard. Okay, fuck it. I'm just going to read them out. So it looks like Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont? No, that's Rhode Island. Hold on. Okay, yeah. All right, so Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, both Dakotas, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Utah. Obviously, some of these states are never going to happen, right? But like, if we can get, I'm trying to think. Okay, New Hampshire's another 4, right? We need 270. So Pennsylvania, if we can get the purple states in the north, 36, 47, 57, 61, that would get us to 270. 275? Oh, that would get us to, am I doing that math right? Hold on. Wait, no, that's not right. 30, fucking hell. I need a calculator. No, Indiana isn't. We haven't gotten Indiana. This, what I'm saying is, it's on the list of states that has not voted one way or the other on this compact. They have not signed. So, like, if you look at this map right here that I'm looking at here on Wikipedia, right, all the states in gray are the ones that haven't signed on yet. The ones in yellow, I believe, are the ones that have voted, that are pending right now, that have voted one way or the other, but have not actually made it public. I don't know exactly how that works. So I'm just looking at the gray states right now, the ones that have not enacted or pending vote, which means that if you look over here, it tells you all of the electoral votes that each of these states gets, right? And so if we're at 209 right now, right, and I'm trying to do the math. No, we would still need more. Hold on, let me pull up my calculator to make sure I'm not fucking this up right now. I can't always trust the head to do the math. All right, 209. Like, I try to as much as possible, and then stuff that's important like this comes up, and I'm like, maybe not. Shit is fallible. Well, I'm just trying to do the math like this. 10 plus 11, 17 plus 4. Oh my god. It's not 65. It's 61. If we add up all of the northern states that haven't voted, the quote-unquote like purple and or blue northern states, minus West Virginia, because we know that that's not happening, it's 61. If you add Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire together, we get 61, which gets us to 270. We could abolish the fucking electoral college forever. We'd never have to talk about votes like this ever again. It would be amazing, guys. If any of you live in any of those states, seriously, call your representatives and tell them that this is what you want. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell everybody you know who thinks the electoral college is a fucking bullshit organization of garbageness. And tell them that you want the popular vote. So yeah, 61 is all we need. It's just those states. The rest of them can go against it, and we can still make it fucking happen, people. Okay. All right. That would be huge. That would change politics in America forever if that were to happen. Ooh, look at it, Gabby. Gabby's up in here. Oh, a bunch of people are starting to show up. I didn't even notice. Not really looking at the numbers, but last time I looked, it was a lot lower. Good to see all you folks filing in. If I haven't noticed you, I've been too busy focusing in on this goddamn chart and figuring out if we can make this. Don't you if only me, Vincent. This is not an if only anymore. This is real. This is happening right now. Amy Goodman just told us about this. Okay? And now we know about it. So pay it forward. Okay? If you remember that movie, tell 3 people. Everybody in this chat, there's 23 people right now. Tell 3 people and tell them to tell 3 people. All right, yeah, sure. Am I taking a movie from, what was it, 2003 to try and make something happen? Absolutely, I am. But we need that vibe right now, because this is insane. I literally hadn't even considered this up to this point. I was just kind of going about my day, looking at genocide and Trump hush money trials and all this other crap. And then Amy Goodman poked an idea into my brain, and here we are, Chad. We could make the popular vote a thing. Okay, all right, moving along. But that's the main reason why I wanted to watch that one. I mean, she did a good job of kind of summing up the rest of the day's news in America, but that was the one that I really wanted us to look at, because that's important as fuck. And I haven't heard anybody else talking about this up until this point, and just seems like the sort of thing we should get on top of. If there's anything for us to get on top of. God damn it, we've already gone 2 hours today. I am moving so slow, Chad. Well, good God, I need to take a break because I need to do multiple things now. Well, I hope you've been enjoying yourself and or learning something here today with me. Why don't you take a quick little dip at the Galactic pool, or grab a drink from the space bar. If you haven't already, hit that like button and do consider subscribing. They help out a great deal. However, if that's not enough for you, and you want to help even more, you, like a handful of other brilliant people, could take $3 out of your bank account and give it to me here at the Galactic News Network by going to my Patreon, where benefits await. And it does genuinely help. Alright, chat. I will be right back. By the way, I made a little sign for the bar, since who was it complaining about it? I think it was Soul Life. So check it out. New sign for the bar. Alright, chat. Be right back.
Follow the Ridgeway.
So hot right now.
That's hot.
There we go. Alright, chat, I am back from my break. I hope you enjoyed the intermission and have apprised yourself of either the bar, the pool, or one of the other amenities here at the Galactic News Network. Let's get back to the news. What do you say? Sleep is good. I agree. I agree with Gabby. Anyone else saying that sleep is especially good.
Don't be creepy.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Alright, what do we got? Okay, we're going straight into ecological and or environmental news here. And boy, do we have a lot of stuff to cover left. What have I done to myself today? 2 days in a row, I think. I've overwhelmed myself with videos. Maybe it's not me, maybe it's the news. There's just a shit ton of stuff happening. And I can't help but show you at least a part of everything. It's some weird obsession I have. Okay, this is from 7 minutes ago. Okay, this is definitely not from exactly 7 minutes ago. But this is like right before the stream even started. I don't think I even watched this one yet, but this is according to the Department of Ecology, which has just declared a drought emergency for most of Washington state.
All right, so we're going to be heading right over to in this direction to our native plant section.
When it's a sunny day, people get excited to start planting.
We've got Doug firs, we've got Indian plum.
And Watson's greenhouse in Puyallup has the plants that will survive a drought.
Okay, so here we've got evergreen huckleberry.
And conserve water.
Right here we've got ocean spray.
In your garden.
Native plants are well adapted to our unique climate conditions, which tends to be dry in the summer.
That's something they and the Department of Ecology are encouraging, as most of the state is under an emergency drought order.
It took us by surprise because it doesn't feel like it's been a very dry winter, but it has been warm. We know snowpack is down, and that snowpack is what we depend on for summer irrigation.
The state says because of that, there's not enough water in the reservoirs, and snowpack levels are sitting at 63% of normal. The Department of Ecology says we started seeing snowmelt in March.
We'll be seeing water less available later in spring and definitely into summer.
The state says this could impact farmers, even with irrigated farmland and their livestock. There are also concerns about drinking water in rural areas.
And it's only April. Exactly, Jules. Exactly. And it's only April. And we already had multiple warnings coming out of practically like every organization on the planet or government. Canada just warned about wildfires in its vast forests that you know are at risk. The UN said that we're red alert. Everybody seems to be saying we're fucked, and we need to do something yesterdoodle about hydrocarbons in the atmosphere. For fuck's sake. Okay. We're gonna fix it, chat. I'm gonna continue to stay positive while staring directly at the doom. Okay. Let's watch this one. This is honestly more funny than anything. But it's also a little sad. However, let's watch this escaped elephant from a circus stop traffic in Montana from 8 hours ago. We've talked about the elephants before in this stream, and they said that they will continue to fight us. If you recall, we had Dr. Dumbo Elefante the third, or the second? The third, I think, on the stream, and he told us about the attack on a safari in, was it South Africa? I think it was. But yeah, as you can see here, the elephants are not done. And until we stop the destruction of the planet and their environment, they may continue this without any stopping. Obviously, I'm joking. It was a joke interview, but I don't know. I can't help myself. I love elephants. Didn't work out today. Hey, sometimes you need a rest day. That's okay. Your nightmares are zombies. Interesting. I've had a few zombie nightmares. You know, it was usually, I feel like the last zombie nightmares I had, though, were while I was still watching The Walking Dead, like, on cable television. Like, before I switched to, like, it was a long time ago now. Okay, what's next? Alright, enough of these dreams. Fuck your dreams, chat. Just kidding. I love you. I support you and your crazy dreams. Let's watch this sort of beautiful video here. You know, I try to keep the environmental news, at least sometimes, what's it called? Positive. Or at least inspirational. So let's watch the northern lights shine over Iceland's erupting volcano. just think it's amazing. The world is just full of mystery and wonder. Granted, there's explanations for both of these things. But there's just something about that image. You know? Maybe it's just me. Okay, moving on to more serious things. And by more serious things, I mean the largest ever recorded flood. The largest recorded flood in 75 years in Oman. And the UAE. Sorry, not just Oman. Oman and the UAE. And I've got a bunch of footage of this. This shit is insane. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's pretty crazy. I think we're just going to go straight through all of these without going back and forth. Hold on. It's nuts. Steamed hams? I thought you said we were having steamed clams. Okay, this is another one from Associated Press. Storm dumps heaviest rain ever recorded in UAE, flooding Dubai's airport and roads. So it is the most ever recorded. Okay, I was right. Shit is nuts. Look at all these cars. They're just stranded. They just left them. Fuck it. I used to own that exact car, but in black. The fact is, the UAE and the Oman are not known for getting a lot of rain. So, you know, you get a historical flood happen, and suddenly people are fucked. This one is from Guardian News. Footage shared by Emirati state media shows a car being submerged by floodwaters, an airplane plowing through an inundated runway, as heavy rain wreaked havoc across parts of the Gulf region. People were seen moving through flooded city streets on rubber road. Oh my god, look at these guys. Jesus Christ. Yeah, they're like literally just straight up walking through a flood in a mall. I don't think that car is supposed to do that. It's like a river. It looks like a fucking river in this street right now. Shit is nuts. All right, we got even more. This one's from the AP. Storm dumps record rain across UAE. It's like all different footage. The footage is insane, I would point out.
Behind me, you can see I'm in one of these flooded areas in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. It's just been totally inundated since this giant storm rushed through this country on Tuesday. In the time since, authorities say this rainfall was the worst ever recorded. Those records go back to 1949, before the United Arab Emirates even existed and before the discovery of oil in this area. Now, as of right now, authorities are still trying to bail out city streets. They're trying to push abandoned cars out of the way. And at Dubai International Airport, which is the busiest international hub for travelers, they're still trying to find even space on their taxiways and runways to park planes, to take planes coming in, as well as to try to even get flight crews to the airport to take off on other flights. As of right now, at least one person has been killed in this flooding in the United Arab Emirates, and in neighboring Oman, at least 19 people have been killed in flooding there. I'm John Gambrell with the Associated Press in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates.
In Dubai, and heavy rain has battered.
Okay. You want to watch The World Is Awesome montages right now? What, for the inspirational value of it? Hilarious. You are hilarious on a pretty regular basis, Pitchforks. Not always. It's a hit and miss sometimes, but you know, we're all hit and miss. Especially me. Okay, what the fuck am I doing next? Not that. I like the attempt though. I think we get the point on the flood, right? We need to watch more of this. Actually, let's watch this last one. The footage is insane. That airport looks like a freaking pond, like a massive freaking lake. And it disrupted a lot of flights, and I forget about it all the time, but Dubai is actually the most flown through airport in the world. So it's definitely caused some serious problems for people traveling. And today it wasn't Boeing causing problems for people traveling, shockingly. Well, maybe not exclusively, is all I'm saying. Anyway, yeah, shit is crazy. Alright, moving on. What do we got next here? If it's 90 degrees in UAE, they consider that winter. Yeah. Yeah, it's very hot there. Okay, we're going to look again at the Great Barrier Reef, as the world is now currently in a fourth mass coral bleaching. So it does feel right for us to look at this multiple days in a row. This is from Reuters from 14 hours ago. Great Barrier Reef hit by... I can barely talk. Great Barrier Reef hit by coral bleaching. Report, according to scientists. Thank you, scientists.
Most of Australia's iconic Great Barrier Reef is suffering from coral bleaching, according to a report released on Wednesday. That's just days after climate experts raised concerns about similar damage to reefs around the world. Australia's Reef Management Agency on Wednesday said coral bleaching was observed on 73% of the surveyed reefs in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Coral bleaching is triggered by changes in water temperatures which cause corals to expel the colorful algae living in their tissues. This phenomena threatens the survival of corals as they rely on algae for nutrients. Roger Beeden, the chief scientist at the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, says the recent summer period was particularly challenging for the Great Barrier Reef, adding that climate change is the greatest threat to the Great Barrier Reef and coral reefs globally. On Monday, the world's top coral reef monitoring body, Coral Reef Watch, run by the U.S. government's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, declared coral reefs worldwide are suffering from a global bleaching event, the fourth in the last 3 decades. It says at least 54 countries and territories have experienced mass bleaching in their reefs since February 2023 due to warming ocean waters caused by climate change.
Okay, we got one more. This one's from Al Jazeera. Mass bleaching event caused by high ocean temperatures, threatening the survival of coral reefs around the world.
NOAA is declaring that the world is indeed, in fact, experiencing its fourth global coral bleaching event.
For an event to be global, mass bleaching must be reported from the Pacific, Caribbean, and Atlantic Ocean basins within a 365-day period.
The number of reef areas around the planet that are experiencing bleaching level heat stress is growing each week. So it's likely that in a few weeks' time, this event will officially be the most spatially extensive global coral bleaching event on record.
Bleaching is triggered by changes in water temperature. It causes corals to expel the colorful algae living in their tissues. Without nutrients from the algae, the corals cannot survive.
The temperature stress has never been so high in this region. This level of bleaching, because it was widespread, it was, if you were in the snow, everything was bleached.
If water around the corals cools, the reefs might survive.
So bleaching is like a fever in humans. We get a fever to resist a disease, and if the disease is not too much, we recover. But if it is too much, we die as a result.
Unfortunately, coral scientists say this round may be fatal.
A realistic interpretation is that, we have crossed the tipping point for coral reefs. They're going into a decline that we can't stop unless we really stop the CO2 emissions, at which point, at some point in the future, that decline of reefs, of corals, can stop.
And as we know, the entire, well, not maybe the entire, but great majority of the Earth's, not the Earth's, but the oceans, life cycle is dependent upon the organisms that live among the coral. Those organisms, obviously, they depend on the coral themselves. Fucking hell. When I was a kid, the song Circle of Life didn't make me sad, but now when I think it in my head, it makes me very sad. Damn you, Lion King. Alright, what the fuck is next? Okay, this is from the AP. Quick. This is from 3 hours ago. How climate change is fueling extreme weather around the motherfucking world. That's according to the AP, not me.
It seems like the weather has gone crazy around the world. There's flooding at the Dubai airport. Oman is flooding. Tanzania is flooding. In Colombia, there's a drought. There's water rationing in Bogota. There's snow in the Balkans. It just seems like everything is going to extreme. Why is that? Well, we have been seeing a lot of extreme weather for the last decade or so, and scientists say we are going to get more and more extreme weather with climate change. What's happening here? As the world warms with climate change, weather is going to get more extreme. That's what scientists keep saying. They've been saying this for more than a decade. They've been seeing it for even longer. All you have to do is look around. However, we can't say this specific extreme was due to climate change until scientists do the complex math and computer simulations that say, yes, it was. And some they will say, nope, this was just total natural variabilities, just total bad luck. It's not just the weather going crazy, it's where people are living, where they're moving to, where we're building. We are putting more people in harm's way as we get more disasters and more people experiencing disasters, more damage, the one thing going down is deaths. Fewer people are dying in weather disasters over time, and that's because we're giving better warning. Going back to Dubai, 2 or 3 days in advance, forecasters are saying, watch out, here comes a big rainstorm, and we're doing a better job of rescuing people. And
okay, he started trying to get real rosy at the end, but to be honest, I don't know if it's warranted. Especially about the things that he's getting all excited about, to be honest. We're not perfect. I don't know how many casualties we've looked at from environmental stuff since I started doing this, whatever, a couple months ago, but it's been a lot. I want to say like hundreds and hundreds of people have perished from different sort of. But once again, I guess he's got a point. Not every single thing that happens relating to the Earth is a result of carbon dioxide, so. Skepticism, right, chat? Anyway, alright, let's watch part of this documentary from Al Jazeera before we move on. This is the second part. We watched the first part, I think it was a couple of days ago. This is the second part. I think they said they're doing like a 6-part documentary on this, which deserves it. So, anyways, this part is entitled After the Hurricane, Climate Change Battering the Poorest. By the way, chat, you're only 3 likes away from getting a 3rd support character, who is Jessica Fletcher. You're only 3 likes away from Jessica Fletcher right now. We are poor people. We live in areas very vulnerable to cyclones, storms, and floods. When these disasters occur, our lives become much harder. Water can flood our homes, even reaching our bedrooms. Yet richer people are safe. Oh my god, imagine living in this. Rich people live in high rises or well-built buildings. They don't have to worry about finding food or anything. But we can't really ask rich people for help. We can't say, please give me money or buy me some land. Capitalism, baby.
We have now crossed the threshold into human-induced climate change. We knew this for a very long time. They told us what was happening, but not all humans are equally responsible. Poor people emit, but they emit very, very little. They are not the ones who are causing the problem.
We are the frontline victims. We have to face disasters from start to finish. Watch, look at this. This is ridiculous. She has to walk waist deep through water to bring clean water back to her family. This shit is insane. Okay. Hold on, there's more to this. But we certainly cannot watch the whole thing, considering how slow I've been moving today. So we're going to have to move this forward a little bit and get a little bit more perspective. Let's see, let's start around here.
Until the 1990s, the United States was responsible for 40% of the pollution that was already in the atmosphere. And now China has overtaken the United States in total emissions, but per capita, we still are bigger polluters.
There's a lot of open water. So yeah, if you look out over here, you're seeing a lot.
So if you didn't quite hear that, while China emits as a country more carbon dioxide than the United States does currently, per capita, the United States emits far greater CO2 than China does.
Open water, and a lot of this was solid land 100 years ago. That's a lot of reasons. It's changes to the course of the Mississippi River, is climate change, and intense storms that have eroded the area. Yeah, and look, you can see those canals? You can see those long straight lines. Those are canals that were cut in the marsh. Those are those are canals that have been cut in the marsh for oil and gas exploration.
The state has lost over nearly 5,000 square kilometers worth of land over the last 100 years.
Jesus.
Even under the more optimistic scenario, that we'll lose well over 1,000 square kilometers worth of land over the next 50 years. So we're looking.
Okay, we're not gonna watch this whole thing. Just wanted to kind of cap that ecological section here with that documentary. Might watch more parts of it later. I've been considering it for maybe Sunday Fun Day. I don't even know. I don't even know. But maybe we'll get back to it later. Now, let's move on to global politics and other sorts of things. First one we'll start off with here is from Al Jazeera English from 12 hours ago. The G7 foreign ministers meeting. Talks to focus on Middle East and Ukraine war.
G7 foreign ministers are gathering for a three-day meeting on the Italian island of Capri off the coast of Naples. The meeting will focus on the situation in the Middle East, including the Red Sea, as well as the war in Ukraine. Talks are expected to explore a path towards a political solution to guarantee peace and security in the region. G7 leaders will meet in June. Well, for more...
Well, I just knocked over my vape, as usual. But yeah, if you're not aware, the G7 is the 7 largest economies in the world meeting together. Try and powwow, figure out what we're gonna do.
Let's bring in Jonah Hull. He's at the Italian island of Capri for us. So, Jonah, what's expected out of these G7 foreign ministers? Are they going to follow the line of what we've heard already out of the UK and Germany?
I expect very much so, Sammy. I think what we're seeing is a consensus emerging at some speed now among Israel's closest allies, the United States, of course, the UK, countries in the European Union, and those countries that make up the rest of the G7. Its foreign ministers, as you said, on their way here. They'll be meeting here over the next 48 hours on the island of Capri. It is a consensus that involves first urging with one voice maximum caution and restraint upon Israel as it deliberates its response to those attacks by Iran over the weekend.
Okay, anyway, we don't need to listen to this whole thing. Just a quick way to get us thinking global politics here. Obviously, it's it's not a Galactic stream without a vape drop or two. Couldn't be truer. Couldn't be truer, BCAT. What was I doing? Oh, yes. Moving us along. Okay, let's quickly look at this story again. We've already looked at it at least a couple of times, but I think it's important the way that these things go. This is from 10 hours ago, where Paris police evict hundreds of migrants from camp ahead of the Olympics in Paris.
Police in Paris have removed hundreds of homeless migrants from a squat in the city, which is believed to be the biggest in France. More than 400 migrants were believed to be living in the camp to the south of Paris. Some human rights groups have questioned the legality of the eviction. This is the latest in a series of operations to clear camps used by migrants in and around Paris, which will stage the Olympic Games in July and August. Let's speak now to Lisa Louis, who is a freelance journalist in Paris. Thanks very much for coming on the programme.
Thank you for having me.
So just talk us through what happened here.
Well, in the morning, this morning, police moved in, and as you said, they evacuated hundreds of migrants who, according to aid associations, were mostly legal migrants who had been living there and working, living there, staying there while they were working across the Ile-de-France, Paris region, and they moved them elsewhere. We don't know yet where to. Generally speaking, the authorities tend to bring at least some of those they evacuate during such actions to reception centres a bit further away from Paris, but we don't have confirmation on that just yet.
Okay. Just wanted to remind you of what France is doing with its unhoused in preparation for the Olympics. It's, pulling a Colorado, like earlier today, and it's just sweeping them from the streets, as they don't currently have more temporary housing to put them in. Okay, moving on. Quick check on the United Kingdom, where apparently inflation is proving sticky, damping rate cut hopes.
Britain's inflation rate slowed by less than expected in March. Official data Wednesday showed consumer prices rose by an annual 3.2%, down from a 3.4% increase in February. That was its lowest level in 2.5 years, but the country's central bank and analysts had forecast marginally lower. The update means a first interest rate cut by the Bank of England could be further off than previously thought, and investors reduced their bets on the bank making a move. They fully priced in only 1 quarter point cut by the end of 2024, possibly as late as November. The slowdown in the fall in Britain's inflation rate follows an acceleration of headline price growth in the US. Analysts said Wednesday's data showed Britain's fight against inflation was not yet won, with some warning there was a risk that the country will follow the trend in the US and stay elevated. Services inflation, which policymakers watch closely, eased only slightly to 6% from 6.1%.
And that's the thing, right? That's the sort of, it's the wrong phrase. That's sort of the keystone, right, of it all, in terms of the data. Right, because if services inflation isn't going up, right, and there's layoffs and all these other sorts of things going on, so where's the inflation coming from? It's coming from the capitalists. It's coming from the corporations, right? It's price gouging, and we're seeing it all across the world. There's becoming more and more momentum going against price gouging efforts being done by these corporations, and hopefully it catches up to them eventually here soon. But for now, it's causing people to have to deal with higher than expected interest rates, and to deal with higher than expected prices. Oh, shit. There we go. Okay, what's next? Moving along. Just trying to touch base here from here to here. If you go on Airbnb right now in Paris, you'll have hundreds, thousands of options. Entirely possible. Entirely possible. Probably, but that's the thing. Airbnb has done this to like every country that it can get its hands on, right? It's not just an American problem. It's a uniquely capitalist sort of problem. And lack of regulation on tech companies' problems. Okay, moving on to Eastern Europe. Georgia's foreign agents bill sparked protests as Parliament approves first reading. We have talked about this. But this deserves a second watch as well. Jesus Christ, dude. Lawmakers in Georgia broke out in a fight during a session of Parliament. As the ruling goddamn is going in hard, party looked set to move forward with a controversial foreign agents bill. These dudes are pissed. The bill, which has provoked days of protests, must pass 2 more readings before becoming law. That shit, you know what, this, it's come to me again. On my first watching, I thought this, and on my second watching, I've thought this now. We should have this. How is this not a law in our country? That seems like a very democratic sort of thing, right? Like, you have to read the entire bill out loud in Congress 3 times before it gets passed. That seems very reasonable. Okay, sorry, but that's unrelated. The European Union said the bill risks stifling freedoms. Georgian critics have compared it to Russian legislation used by the Kremlin to crack down on dissent.
It's not about the law. I mean, it's not about the legal proceedings. It's about the geopolitical choice, right? In that committee hearing, I mean, we had this geopolitical discussion whether Georgia is going to European Union or Georgia is going to Russia.
A protester opposing the bill seen being kicked by Georgia riot police, adding to the tensions around the proposed legislation.
It's like copy-pasted from similar Russian law against freedom of media, against freedom of organizations, and it's like we will receive same results as now Russians are facing, so it's completely same.
Whoa. I'm so sorry, chat. I just realized you made it over 30, and you demanded Jessica, and I didn't see it because I was too focused on this story. There's your Jessica, okay? There's your Jessica. Hold on. I gotta make sure I put it on both of these. I hate the way Streamlabs has been acting lately. Just be functional, Streamlabs. That's all I'm asking. That's really all I'm at. That's Captain Planet. Oh, you're about to get a free Captain Planet, aren't you? Yeah, you might. Okay, well, I guess you just got a free Captain Planet because it won't let me unhide it. Okay, then. Fine. No big deal. Just giving away Captain Planets. Ah, God. What does the world come to? Free Captain Planets.
სამწუხაროა, რომ არც ერთ განცხადებაში არ იყო მოყვანილი არც ერთი არგუმენტი. ვიმეორებ, არც ერთი არგუმენტი. თქვენ ნახეთ ეს განცხადებები. მაგათაც სტოლტენბერგის განცხადება.
You saw these statements, for example, Stoltenberg's and whatever, blah, blah, blah. There were some today that say the law contradicts EU values. In which part? In the part that makes people register as foreign agents. That part. Because that would imply you're not part of the EU. Implicitly. I think. I'm not a lawman or a lawyer, but it does seem weird to me. Why are you sorry? Who's sorry? What? Gabby, why are you sorry? I'm very confused. Did I do something? Did you? Who did? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm genuinely confused. Alright, what was I doing? Oh yeah, what am I doing? Okay. He does look he kind of does look like Millet, now that you say it. I don't know what you're sorry for, but never be sorry to me. Unnecessary. Alright, moving along. This is an interesting statistic, and unfortunate one to some degree, for sure. This is from 15 hours ago from BBC News. Russian soldier death toll hits 50,000 in the war against Ukraine. I had no idea that the casualties were this high. It's pretty tragic, honestly.
Now let's turn to the war in Ukraine. For more than 2 years, BBC News Russian service and its partners Mediazona have been gathering and verifying the identities of more than 50,000 Russian fighters killed in Ukraine. Now that figure is 8 times more than the losses Russia has acknowledged. The data collected by the BBC reveals that more Russian fighters died in the second year of the war than the first, a reflection of how Russian tactics have changed over time and confirmation that the human cost of the war has only gone up. Lead investigator Olga Ivshina has more.
In Russia, the number of war graves is growing fast.
05.11.
5th of November,
09.11.
9th of November.
01.11.
Listing the dates of death, volunteers have sent us this video from the city of Vladivostok. And here is the same cemetery from above. In the last 2 years, it has grown twice in size.
Okay, moving along. Got more videos of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. This next one is from AP. At least 13 dead after Russian missiles hit Chernihiv in Ukraine. Killing civilians, I would point out. Ah, fuck. Must every corner of the globe be covered in devastation right now? Very frustrating. Okay, there's more footage of this. I'm just gonna move on to this next video. Video shows a Russian missile hitting northern Ukraine's Chernihiv. For fuck's sake. At least 16 people have been killed and dozens have been injured after 3 missiles hit the city. Video shows blown out windows in a hospital building. Shattered glass covered hospital rooms.
Конференц-зал.
Okay, what's next? Okay, these next two are interesting. This one is from 11 hours ago, where apparently Russia has begun withdrawing peacekeeping forces from Karabakh, which is in the Armenia-Azerbaijan region. So for a while, for many years, Russia had peacekeeping forces in this region because of, well, the genocide and the ethnic cleansing and all the other fighting that has happened in this region in the past, and Russia felt it was their responsibility to some degree to keep peace in the region. So they had thousands of troops that are now being withdrawn, and my guess would be because they have incurred so many fucking casualties that they need the troops now. It does, however, I would point out, it does pull back Russian troops from, you could call it a strategic position, right? And which very well may be why they've been there up to this point. But from what I can tell, with 15,000 dead soldiers, especially in this modern era, like that is, you know, there's been talks about Russia also struggling with troops. It's both Ukraine and Russia, honestly. They should just stop fighting, right? Am I right? Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Oh, God. Okay. What is next? You have to go to work? Oh, well, it's good seeing you, Donald Duck. Meow meow to you. This next video is from Reuters from 5 hours ago, where Ukraine is claiming that Russia has stepped up its illegal use of tear gas.
Ukraine's military is running chemical weapons drills like this. As it says, Russia is ramping up the illegal use of riot control agents on the front to clear out trenches. One infantryman says a drone dropped a tear gas grenade on his trench in the Eastern Front in January. I didn't get hit hard by it because I quickly put on my gas mask, he says. It's not lethal, but it disturbs and knocks you out. It makes it very...
So yeah, I mean, that's really all we need to hear. Definitely not supposed to be using chemical warfare. We already know Russia's been committing war crimes on different levels. But yeah, this is just more, you know, seemingly more confirmation of continued war crimes from Russia. Next, what do we got? Oh god, OBS is running so slow. Everything else running perfectly fine, but OBS, as usual, 3 hours in, perfectly on time, is moving so slow. Okay, let's watch this Democracy Now! Piece from 12 hours ago. Entitled, No Tech for Apartheid. Google workers arrested for protesting company's $1.2 billion contract with Israel.
Several Google employees, at least 9, were arrested Tuesday evening after staging sit-ins at the company's offices in New York and in California to protest the tech giant's work with the Israeli government. The sit-ins, organized by the activist group No Tech for Apartheid, took place at Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian's office in Sunnyvale, California, and the 10th floor commons of Google's New York office, which is right around the corner from Democracy Now! Protesters are calling for Google to withdraw from a $1.2 billion contract to provide cloud computing services to the Israeli government, known as Project Nimbus. Last week, Time magazine reported Google's work on the project involves providing direct services to the Israeli military. The sit-ins were accompanied by outdoor protests at the Google offices here in New York and in Sunnyvale, San Francisco, and Seattle, Washington. Workers and outside activists have opposed the contract since it was signed in 2021, but protests have ramped up over the past several months since Israel's latest bombardment of Gaza. No Tech for Apartheid says Google is enabling and profiting from Israel's use of artificial intelligence to develop a kill list to target Palestinians in Gaza for assassination, with little human oversight. The Israeli military is also using Google Photos for facial recognition across Gaza and the West Bank to identify and detain Palestinians en masse. No Tech for Apartheid has published an open letter co-signed by 18 other groups that demands Google and Amazon immediately cancel their work on Project Nimbus. The letters gathered more than 94,000 signatures from the general public. For more, we're joined by 2 of the arrested Google workers. Ray Westrick is with us. She's a Google worker organizer with No Tech for Apartheid campaign. Among the workers who occupied Google Cloud CEO's Thomas Kurian's office in Sunnyvale, California. She's joining us from Sunnyvale. And here in New York, we're joined by Mohammed Khatami, a Google software engineer who was arrested at the sit-in at Google's office in New York. He's joining us along with Gabriel Schubener, a former software engineer at Google Research and organizer with the No Tech for Apartheid campaign. And before that, he was with Jewish Diaspora and Tech. We welcome you all to Democracy Now! Mohammed, let's begin with you. You were just hours ago in the jail in the local police precinct. Talk about why you were willing to get arrested.
Yeah. Well, rather than, consider the demands that we've been raising for years now, and listening to workers and considering the things that we've been raising, Thomas Kurian and Google execs basically chose to arrest workers for speaking out against the use of our technology to power the first AI-powered genocide. So we were willing to get arrested for that because at this point we aren't willing to be lied to by our higher-ups anymore. We aren't willing to be disrespected by our higher-ups anymore. And we wanted to take that to the offices and make sure it was understood by them. Yeah.
How do you sense is the support that you have among other Google workers, the degree of the dissatisfaction with the policies of Google?
Yeah, I mean, Google has done a really good job at creating a culture of fear and retaliation against workers in general. But what we noticed was beautiful. So many people came up to our sit-in and basically showed support and felt that they were inspired by the work that we were doing.
Okay, I have more of this to show you, but we gotta try and not watch this whole thing. Otherwise, this stream will go on into infinity. Hey, I understand. I understand Gallows' humor. I get it. I get it. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna try and get us to the spot. Oh, this is... Actually, hold on. It's in here, right? Am I losing my mind? Maybe they played it during... Oh, they did. Oh, okay, never mind. Wow, why did I pause this then?
And felt inspired to speak out, which is exactly what we were going for. We want workers to feel like we have the power to choose where our technology is going and who we're contributing to. So I felt really happy to see that. Yeah.
Ray Westrick, you're on the West Coast. You were arrested in California. Talk about this Project Nimbus and why you were willing to get arrested and what the response. Were you in the offices of the Google Cloud CEO?
Yes, we sat in at the office of Thomas Kurian, the Google Cloud CEO, to protest Project Nimbus, which is a $1.2 billion contract with the Israeli government and military between Google and Amazon. We also were demanding the protection of our coworkers, especially our Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim coworkers, who have been consistently retaliated against, harassed, and doxxed for speaking out about Project Nimbus and the humanity of Palestinians. So we were there in solidarity with them. We were there to protest the contract, which is being directly sold, providing technology directly to the Israeli military as it inflicts a genocide on Palestinians in Gaza. And yeah, that is why we chose to sit in Thomas Kurian's office.
And Ray, was there any response from the CEO or his office? And are you concerned about losing your job? Why did you decide to take this action?
Yeah, we did not receive any response from the CEO, and I think it's really telling that they would rather let us sit there for over 10 hours and arrest us for peacefully sitting in his office than have leadership engage in our demands in any way at all. So we've received no response from the CEO, and we were forcibly removed by the police. And working at Google has been, an honor. I really love my team. I love.
This thing is frustrating. Is there not video of this? Do I have a different video of this or something? Hold on, chat. Sorry, I gotta look through this video real quick. We don't have time to watch this whole thing, but Could have sworn there was footage of this in here, but maybe not. Yeah. Well, I don't know where it is. Or maybe I watched it somewhere else. Maybe I watched on the Majority Report today, but I saw a video of Google employees being first harassed by management, sort of browbeaten and trying in an attempt to get them to stop protesting, and then they were like, oh, okay, well then I guess we'll have to go to the space of calling police, and it was just nonsense. But anyway, you get it. People are attempting to fight back against Google supporting this genocide in Gaza just for money. Okay, moving on. This is from Reuters from 10 hours ago. UK's David Cameron says Israel will respond to Iran attack.
The situation is very concerning. It's right to show solidarity with Israel. It's right to have made our views clear about what should happen next, but it's clear the Israelis are making a decision to act. We hope they do so in a way that does as little to escalate this as possible, and in a way that, as I said yesterday, is smart as well as tough. But the real need is to refocus back on Hamas, back on the hostages, back on getting the aid in, back on getting a pause in
David
the conflict
Cameron
in Gaza. That's why I'm here.
Is getting so worked up about this. Like, I don't even think I've ever seen him get this worked up about anything before. He must really, really love Israel and genocide.
To talk to the Israeli government, to talk to the Palestinian Authority, to try and push those things forward. What we want to...
This guy's a garbage person. Okay. Moving on. Now, this is from Breakthrough News from 10 hours ago. Israel is instigating a regional war with Iran. Here's why.
Netanyahu wants a regional war with Iran. Why? When Israel bombed Iran's embassy in Syria 2 weeks ago, killing one of Iran's top generals, they were knowingly setting off a chain of events that was designed to drag Iran into war. Iran retaliated for the embassy bombing on Saturday, and now, as I'm recording this, the Israeli War Cabinet is deciding on timing and scale for its attack on Iran. In hindsight, you can see how the embassy attack was obviously going to trigger this chain reaction we're seeing right now, which could very well boil over into an all-out war. Bombing another country's embassy is an act of war, and Israel obviously knows this. They knew Iran would respond, so then the question becomes, why do it? The main reason is that Israel's basically lost the war in Gaza. At the beginning of the war, Israel set out 3 primary goals for the war: to destroy Hamas, to get its hostages back, and install new leadership in Gaza that would prevent the Palestinian resistance from ever taking power again. After 6 months, Israel has withdrawn the majority of its forces from Gaza, it's achieved none of its goals, it's indefinitely postponed the invasion of Rafah, and has really only succeeded in turning itself into an international pariah. Like virtually every colonial power before it, Israel's military philosophy is that the side with the most firepower is the side that wins. Israel has historically relied on the use of overwhelming artillery and air power to do most of the work, no different than the United States in Afghanistan or Vietnam. They've also added to it the medieval-style siege campaign and starvation. But this strategy almost always fails, because it doesn't acknowledge that war is ultimately a political battle with a large martial component. You can kill a ton of enemy combatants, you can starve people deliberately, but that doesn't mean they'll accept your dictates. In many cases, it actually makes the resistance to you stronger, because the friends and family of the people you've killed just end up taking arms against you. This is why Israel was never going to beat Hamas. The last 6 months have shattered Israel's illusion of invincibility. It's reaffirmed that Israel can be beaten in battle, and basically achieved for Israel the exact opposite of what it set out to do. Israel's projection of strength was supposed to deter resistance. Now, that's gone. Not only did Israel's massacre greatly increase the Palestinian people's support for the resistance, it also undermined its strategic alliances. Israel's callous disregard for human life sparked mass outrage in Western capitals, which made it politically impossible for Western leaders to support Israel without being perceived as supporting genocide. All of the
Okay. I think we get it. Well, kind of. We get it. We kind of get it. Actually, maybe we'll watch the end of this video as well. Go right here.
Save Israel from Hezbollah. Iran, on the other hand, has been in the US crosshairs for decades. There's an entire wing of the imperialist class that's basically dedicated itself to taking down Iran for the last 20 years. Israel knows that if it instigates a war with Iran, the vast majority of Republicans, and probably also Democrats, would cry for war. The US is saying for the time being that they don't want to get involved in a war, but that's much harder to say when missiles are flying. Going to war with Iran would also allow Israel to flip the narrative from Israel being the genocidal superpower decimating Gaza to the tiny European democracy fighting the big, scary Islamic Republic. Israel hopes that people will forget about Gaza if this war with Iran starts, and this strategy is already being pushed by leaders in the Israeli war cabinet to start a bigger war to recover some sympathy in the West. I want everyone watching this to just really take a moment and appreciate how insane this is. The fact—
No kidding. It's nonsense crazy. That kind of shit is how, and I'm always avoiding saying this phrase, but that's how you start World War III, okay? By intentionally starting World War III. I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like, right? Pulling in all of the West into a fight against Iran and the resulting, I mean, what the fuck, dude? Because the fact is, 10% of me wanted to think they were just being short-sighted. Fucking hell. Alright, moving on. Stop the world for Gaza. U.S. protesters block roads, bridges, and airports. This is from a day ago. Drone footage shows activists disrupting traffic on San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge, holding a sign saying "Stop the world for Gaza." It was one of several demonstrations held across the U.S. protesting against Israel's war on Gaza.
Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
The innocent Palestinian men, women, and children who are being slaughtered by the thousands.
Activists blocked the road to an airport in Chicago. An airport, Chicago O'Hare, causing people to walk and get out of their cars.
I am still.
We watched that yesterday.
I am boarding in probably 5 minutes.
Oh my god, boarding in 5 minutes. It's terrible. Okay, moving on. Let's look at this next one. From 17 hours ago, USC cancels Muslim valedictorian's graduation speech. This is fucked. This is double fucked.
The University of Southern California has come under the spotlight this week after canceling a valedictorian speech from a Muslim student. The school, regarded as one of California's most prestigious private universities, has defended their decision by citing safety concerns and tensions around the current conflict in the Middle East.
Jesus Christ.
South Asian American Muslim Aznat.
That shit is fucking insane. Okay, chat? If you're thinking to yourself, that sounds insane, you're right. Because telling a Muslim student that they can't give a speech because of the political climate, right? Because of supposed security concerns, that is literally just, for people that are out there constantly talking about freedom, that, my friends, is taking away someone's freedom based upon their religion. It's a fucking oh, you need a table. You better start flipping them because this is insane. Okay? This is completely nonsensical. Right? What if the same thing happened to a Jewish student? What if the same thing happened to a Christian student? What if the same thing happened to a Hindu student or somebody else? It is so insane to me that you would take away the privilege of a young woman who has clearly worked her fucking butt off to get to where she is, to be valedictorian, to be from a different culture and to be here in America, right? And doing that, like, it's just, oh my God, like, how could you take this away from her? It really fucking pisses me off so much.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Tabassum said she is being silenced by anti-Palestinian hatred for her views on human rights. In a statement published by the Council on American Islamic Relations, the biomedical engineering major said she was, quote, profoundly disappointed by the decision.
No kidding.
Reuters spoke with Executive Director of CARE, Hussam Aylush.
What took her by surprise is the way her university acted. You know, the way the university threw her under the bus for her was unexpected.
Several pro-Israel student groups on campus called for Tabassum's removal as commencement speaker earlier this month. They claimed that she had espoused anti-Semitic views in the past, citing an Instagram link to a post advocating for, quote, one Palestinian state and the, quote, complete abolishment of the State of Israel. Tabassum told local media she posted the link 5 years earlier and did not author the post. Aylush said the university had not asked for an advance copy of Tabassum's address before withdrawing her invitation to speak, and that she had not even begun working on her speech. He said USC's decision undermines free speech and fuels Islamophobia.
In this case, the university is saying, well, we talk about free speech, but we're not going to necessarily support and protect free speech because she is being penalized for using free speech to stand for human rights for all people, including Palestinians. In a way, by caving into that pressure, they're fueling Islamophobia because they're
Exactly. They're fueling Islamophobia. They're giving it credence by doing this. It's an action, and therefore it has consequences, ramifications, implications. So many table flips. So justified. So justified. Okay. Hold on to your tables, chat. We got some more shit to look at still. Israeli tanks push back into northern Gaza. Warplanes fucking hit Rafah. This is from 11 hours ago from Al Jazeera. So you know how yesterday we were talking about how Palestinians were attempting to make it back to northern Gaza? How some bakery in northern Gaza had opened up, giving bread to thousands, and how people were attempting to bring their lives back from ruin, from being stuck in Rafah this whole time after Israel pulled out its troops. And, well, here we go. Forget all that optimism. Just kidding, chat. Go web, go. What the fuck? Go. What in the heck? You know, I don't know if you've noticed this, but recently, whenever there's text on a video, YouTube allows you to try and select it, but it also causes problems like this, and it's annoying the shit out of me. There we go. That's
Thousands of Palestinians with no place to go.
That's insanely loud.
Gaza's southernmost city.
What the fuck?
The university...
Stop doing this to me, YouTube, I swear to God.
Thousands of Palestinians with no place to go. This is the reality of Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city, once home to 275,000 people, now sheltering nearly 1.5 million.
It'll be a huge problem if a ground invasion takes place in Rafah. You can see thousands of people, more than 1.5 million people in Rafah. Where can they go? We can barely find space for each other. Every tent hosts 6, 4 or 3 families instead of 1. The least you can find is 2 families inside a tent. What will happen when they get into Rafah? Where can we go?
Fucking
And that is the
what's gonna
fear
happen.
for those who are here after Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant met top officials last week to work on preparations for a ground invasion.
We are definitely terrified, and whoever says he's not afraid is lying. We can't go anywhere. Mawasi can't take more people, neither can Rafah. Geographically, it can't take any more. We are really worried.
For months, families displaced from the north have crammed into Rafah, living in tent camps, school-turned shelters and homes of relatives, while some areas still look like this. Much of Rafah, like the rest of Gaza, is rubble. Israeli airstrikes have repeatedly targeted the area, leveling homes and killing tens of thousands of Palestinians.
We are scared if an invasion takes place in Rafah. Where can we go? We are more than 20 people. I really dream about going back to my home. I wish I can go back to my apartment, even if it is rubble now. I'll stay in a tent there, but at my place. We are emotionally devastated.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I know I've been saying it over and over and over and over and over again, but strikes on Rafah cannot be allowed, but they're happening. An invasion on Rafah absolutely cannot be allowed, but Israel keeps talking about wanting to do it. Meanwhile, they're attacking people who are moving back to their homes because they pulled out and told everybody they were pulling out, and then went back on it. Israel literally, the second that anything starts going even remotely right for Palestinians, or just not badly for them, or just not horrific for them, Israel like perks their ears up. Like, what the fuck can we do about that? Oh, it is so frustrating. So frustrating. You know, I was getting my hopes up. Like, I was getting a tiny bit optimistic. You know, they were talking about they were talking about getting aid in. You know, they were talking about opening up more routes into Gaza to get aid in. They were talking about the ceasefire deal in Egypt. And then Israel decided to attack Iran. And then decided there was just a quick break. We're coming right back to Gaza to fuck it up. Gotta finish the rest of it. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm just losing a chat. Okay. Moving on. This is gonna be equally frustrating though. Destruction in Beit Hanun. Displaced Palestinians face Israeli incursion. This is from 6 hours ago.
Men in women's clothing litter a bulldozed road in Beit Hanun in northern Gaza. The items left in the dirt after what Palestinians describe as a campaign of mass arrests by Israeli forces.
The Israeli soldiers rounded up all the men in the area. Some were ordered to run for their lives. Others stripped, handcuffed, blindfolded, and brought to this spot for interrogation. Some were interrogated, myself included, and were tortured and abused. Before the Israelis withdrew, they destroyed the school building sheltering people.
Before withdrawing from the area, Israel's military bulldozed roads and destroyed food orchids and olive trees, as one journalist in the area uncovered.
And I'm talking to you from Beit Hanun, exactly from Mahdiya Shawa school, where the Israeli forces besieged this school for more than 24 hours. And this school, the Israeli forces conducted a detailed search and a campaign of arresting, and they also investigated with all the people and all civilians who are sheltering in this school.
This shit needs to be stopped.
Where homes once stood,
This shit
all that remains is rubble. Displaced Palestinians turning to the area and few
What the
reminders
fuck?
of the lives.
Oh my god. YouTube is acting real weird now. But yeah, I mean, when the Bosnian genocide was going on, what did the United States do? They had the Dayton Accords in Ohio. They brought people together, right? So far, we've left it up to Egypt or Qatar and stood outside of it. We haven't even really attempted to even tell our ally who's doing the genocide to, hey, knock it the fuck off, pal. And this lack of urgency coming from the West is just so lacking any fucking humanity. And it's just pushing us further and further into the abyss right now. It's pissing me the fuck off. Okay, I'm moving on. Latest round of sanctions against Iran, unlikely to make a major impact, according to Al Jazeera English from 5 hours ago.
And we're joined now by Mohammed Al-Masri, Professor of Media Studies at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Mr. Al-Masri, always good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. Let's start by talking about what we're hearing from our White House correspondent in Washington, D.C., from our correspondent on the Italian island of Capri, which is that the U.S. and EU want to sanction Iran over its attacks on Israel over the weekend. The same leaders wouldn't, at the UN Security Council, condemn Israel's bombing of the...
The fact that we were so fast to jump on sanctions on Iran, already very sanctioned country, and haven't even, like, what's the word? We haven't even faked at doing anything like that with Israel, who just attacked Iran on Iranian soil, which is what a consulate is, right? Even if it's in a different country. I would point out that they went through one country to hit another country. No sanctions there. But fuck, I mean...
I got boxes full of Pepe! Iranian consulate in Damascus. They're all telling Israel not to escalate the situation. But what are their actions telling Israel?
Right. I mean, it's been fascinating to watch. As you mentioned, these countries are refusing to condemn the attack on the Iranian consulate. Not only that, but they're not even acknowledging that there was an attack on a consulate. Yesterday, there was a press briefing where Matthew Miller, a spokesperson, says, we're not even sure if it is a consulate. And he was pressed by an American journalist. Yeah. And the American journalist says, well, how long does it take for you to figure out if this is a consulate? And of course, this is just smokescreen. Everybody knows it was a consulate building. So it's been fascinating to watch that. They're not putting the appropriate pressure on the entity that needs pressure applied to it. They're turning a blind eye to Israeli aggression, and they're throwing all of the blame on Iran, which was just retaliating, right? And they're, of course, not framing it up that way. So I think that they're going to continue to along the same course. This is kind of what this kind of U.S. foreign policy does. Yeah. And I think we can expect more of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and on a course where, again, as we were hearing from our White House correspondent, passing more sanctions on Iran when Iran is already one of the most sanctioned countries in history. Right. And while there's so much focus now on the Iran-Israel tensions and what's Israel going to do and how is Iran going to respond, what does that mean for Gaza and what Israel can do in Gaza while the world's attention is now distracted?
Right. Well, first of all, I think there's kind of a diminishing returns with respect to the sanctions. I don't think that the U.S. is going to get what it wants to out of additional sanctions because there's only so much more that they can do, and Iran has actually proved relatively resilient in the face of the ongoing sanctions, and they've moved over toward Russia and China, so they've been able to pivot. So I don't think that that's going to really have much of an effect on Iran. With respect to Israel, certainly part of this was, part of the attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria was meant to be a distraction. Israel is losing the war. There was an editorial published in Haaretz the day before yesterday, and it said something like a total defeat for Israel. And they talked about the 4 elements of defeat. Hamas still exists. They haven't destroyed Hamas. They haven't gotten the hostages back. Israel is less safe, and Israel has a worse standing in the global community than it did when it launched this war. So Haaretz, an Israeli media outlet, is calling this a total defeat.
Yeah, I think that sums up the majority of what I wanted to get out of this. Here, he really just put what I was trying to say much more eloquently, so that feels like well covered. Okay, chat. Well, we've reached the final serious video. Don't fret though, it's a extra long video. We're not gonna watch the whole thing, probably, But this is from Zateo, from a day ago. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Zateo, definitely go check it out. This is, oh my god. Mehdi Hassan. I was about to call him Hassan Minaj. I knew that was wrong. Mehdi Hassan's new YouTube channel. After having left MSNBC, he has now gone out on his own, created a brand, and this is his interview with AOC discussing Gaza, quote-unquote, racist by default. AOC talks to Mehdi Hassan and Zateo about Gaza.
Without any further ado, joining me now is the Democratic Socialist from the great state of New York, a politician so well known we refer to her by 3 letters, AOC. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I don't know if you can make it up. You can make it up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming tonight.
Of course, thank you for having me.
We were local, not far from Congress, so we arranged it all. This is a new media company. Kara's been talking to me about media, theory, vision. And let's talk about old media. You have had a very unique relationship with the media. When I thought tonight we're talking about Zateo and media, the future, who better to talk to than a politician who has a very unique relationship? In fact, 2 months after you arrived in Congress, the AP ran a story headlined, "Hero or Villain? Ocasio-Cortez remains a media fixation," in which they cited a study showing stories about you online got more shares, more comments, more likes than even then Speaker Nancy Pelosi. How has your personal experience of that intense media spotlight shaped your own view of our mainstream media?
Oh man, I mean, tremendously. And it's actually not just the extremely intense experience of having to be under this inordinate amount of scrutiny and attention through media because it was incentivized by, all of this fervor, but also equally informed by the total absence and lack of coverage of our primary before I won as well. And the total absence and squashing of stories and, the silence that went on. I mean, I was actually quite radicalized afterwards by all of this media narrative that happened after I won, where people said, she came out of nowhere. No one saw her coming. I had hour-long interviews with Politico, the New York Times, many of the same outlets that claim that I came from nowhere had actually interviewed me for hours.
Now, I don't want reality.
Oh no, not the rational people. Yes, I decided to end the stream with some rational people. It only felt right after the nonsense that we just incurred unto ourselves.
And decided not to run with these stories. And so going from that silence to this just almost like this frothing at the mouth, I mean, articles about when I got my hair cut, I mean, things that do not matter to people, right? But was incentivized because all of a sudden it was good algorithmically or for, whatever it may have been for them, was very informative. And also, that was also a time where I found it very important for me to, at times, bypass these channels and use my own voice.
So you just preempted my next question, which is you do go on a lot of late night comedy shows, you do Instagram lives, you quote tweet at certain journalists if they're saying something you disagree with or that you think is wrong. Is that you trying to control your own narrative, try and cut out the media middleman to go directly to your voters? And if so, what do you say to critics who say it's not healthy in a democracy for politicians to be able to just bypass the media?
I think it's not healthy in a democracy for there to be false narratives that are allowed to be perpetuated because they're incentivized by one, political force or another.
That's real.
And this is not to say that there's no place for journalism. Of course, it is a bedrock of any functioning democracy.
Yeah.
But it is to say that there can't just be one gatekeeper of information.
Like
and
Rupert Murdoch,
as a public
for
official,
instance.
I should be held accountable by the press. And I also believe that I have the right to tell my own story as well and the public can weigh, all of these facts for themselves. But I do think that experience of having to look at myself through the funhouse mirror of the narrative war that happens on ink and paper, it's not always the same objectivity that is often claimed.
No,
right?
That's for sure.
And I remember I actually didn't see it live, but because my election results were announced and it was just pure chaos. But looking back, there was like 2 years afterwards, I saw this clip, I think of NBC breaking the news, and it was like rabid socialist defeats.
This woman is dangerous,
I'm
ladies and
exaggerating,
gentlemen.
but it was treated as though it was this national emergency, like defeats the next heir to the Speaker of the House. This country is going to hell in a handbasket, and it was this just fervor that was so beyond what I think was the truth of the situation.
So given since then you've called out the media as you are tonight for false narratives, if you had to change one thing right now about our mainstream media, about how it covers the news, the politics, the election race, what would it be?
I think it's too Beltway focused. I think that it is so, at least our political news is so deeply shaped by how people feel here. And, I know this is kind of a cliche thing to say, but it truly is. I feel this way when I see how a lot of my colleagues' views are shaped. A lot of people here, because of the fundraising model in Washington and our elections, you spend all day, I don't, but you spend all day, most people spend all day on the phone 4 hours dialing for dollars.
Right.
But when you do that...
Okay, I'm just going to push it to some of the more current stuff. I'm trying to think of where they start talking about this. I think right around here.
BBC headline about a man who lost, I think, 103 members of his family, and the headline was just, he lost 103 members of his family.
Sorry, I went too far.
People, and very often the narrative is, was someone running too far to the left or too far to the right, as opposed to, did someone have a more functional campaign?
You missed funny
was
chat.
Was their operation better or not? Which is never...
What do you mean, Gabby, you missed funny chat? Oh, do you mean when people were throwing tables all over the place? You may have missed that one part. But you're here now, and that's what's important. And you were here before it. So really, it's not so bad.
Ever discussed. If someone loses, it's because they were too radical, not that they didn't knock on doors or run a functional or competent operation. And so I think sometimes the one thing that I would change would be for people to operate and also perhaps cross-pollinate reporting more. I think having a political beat can
Although
create
that
a
has its
silo.
dangers too. You had the New York Times for 4 years saying, let's go talk to Trump voters in a diner, which didn't really work out for us either. That has
Yeah, but it's all political reporting,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
That's true. So let's go beyond the Beltway. Gaza.
I think that's what she means, right? Is not enough people focus on the politics, but they don't focus on the actual problems the people are facing, right? And you see it in our politics, right? Like the media and our politics kind of reflect each other in that way, where it's just sort of focused on the politicking rather than the governing, which is why we see Republicans just kind of running circles around each other, trying to find something that they can do, right? It's a nonsense world we live in right now.
In my view, has been a major media fail. Not just the failure to hold Israel to account for what it's doing, but the failure to humanize Palestinians on our screens. And today, in the opening monologue for my new show, I referenced an Intercept study which showed how the words massacre and slaughter are used almost exclusively for Israeli victims of Palestinian violence and not Palestinian victims of Israeli violence. And I happen to think that's not just dehumanizing, it's racist. And I wonder, A, do you agree with that? And B, do you think it's deliberately done?
I do think that that there absolutely is. Institutional racism informs all our institutions. It is subconscious. It is foundational. That is what it is. And it's not to say that there is like this one individual that at the top of an organization that has explicit intent. It's just this, is coverage coverage leans misogynistic by default. It leans, racist by default. The use of passive voice when a Palestinian is killed.
Great success.
The use of passive voice when a black person is killed by the police. Passive voice is reserved for the marginalized. And these practices are normalized. And so...
Totally. And you should definitely all go watch the rest of this. But that's all I'm going to give you here today, chat. I can't take away views from my dude Mehdi Hassan. So you go subscribe to Zateo. You go watch that video if you want the rest of that conversation. Honestly, it is a great conversation. I hate to do it to you, but it does go on for like 30 minutes as well. I guess I could give... No, I'm not even going to give you the very end. I don't think I can. Can I? Could I? Am I that guy? Maybe I'll give you the very end.
Trump. Should we take another question from the back? Yeah, you got a hand up. Microphone's right behind you.
Hi. The question I had to you is I've been watching you throughout the whole time you've had your term, but I often hear the discourse at work is, yeah, we kind of get where she's coming from. It's just the way she delivers that message. I'm going to call that out. That's just sexism, misogyny. I mean, I don't need that part to explain, but how do you respond to, how do you think we should respond to somebody like that? And I'm going to pause you just there. Mehdi, I want to ask you a slight question as well, briefly, which is, how do you reach out to the Muslim population to get them out to vote and be interested?
Yeah.
Mehdi Hassan always has that, like, journalist's, what do you call it? Sort of clock, if you will, always counting down the seconds. We have another 1,000 seconds left with this interview. You gotta be quick with this question. It's just the incessant clock.
I mean, it's true. A lot of it is institutional. This conversation started with institutional misogyny, sexism, racism, etc. First of all, I can't be anyone but me, and I made a deal with myself when I first ran for office and when I won. I needed to know on what conditions I would leave. And for me, the moment that I could no longer be myself, I could no longer have this job. I made that deal with myself. And so, when people tell me that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a Puerto Rican from the Bronx. That's what you're gonna get, and that's what it is.
And
but I think on the other part too, I tend to, when some of that unconscious bias comes up, the most effective way that I know is to respond to it with a question, which is, what about that do you think is inappropriate? Or what about that do you think is inferior? And prompting a process of self-reflection. And a person may respond defensively in the moment, but I often find a couple weeks later, or sometimes months later, they'll come back and they'll say, I really gave thought to what you were talking about, and I actually think I've reframed it. But we've seen questions like this happen all the time, right? Around so many people and about your boss or someone you work with, and it's really, that's that structural kind of dismantling of bias that we all have to do.
All right, chat. Well, I think that's it. Hey, what's this?
Have a gift? Oh, no.
You got that out of us.
Tell that to MSNBC. They don't want me. So. Who is this? It's a news.
MSNBC? I'll kill you!
Okay, don't say that. Don't, because I am still. This is great.
Every person on MSNBC?
Yeah. No.
the guillotine.
We're not threatening anybody at MS. This is not a threat to anybody at MSNBC.
It is.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, I've never been more serious.
I still love that one. I really do. Okay, chat. It just felt right, considering. Oh, poor Mehdi. Kicked out for saying the truth at MSNBC. Good God, chat. Looks like we've gone through another arduous journey through the void. Thankfully, I had all of you here to get through it. Couldn't do it out with you space fans. Well, suppose that's it for me. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Without them, the show would cease to exist. Like a puff of smoke in space. You too could become a producer of the Galactic News Network for a few dollars a month. Great space benefits await you. Don't forget these names, folks. Got Gabby. You got Goth Dogs. You got Aaron W. Robot Cat. Even Pitchfork's Dragon. The Anti-Corporatist. And Vincent Morales. All of these individuals have pledged $3 a month to keeping the Galactic News Network on the air.